Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in this position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 man.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
When you think of recruiting coverage, you don't think of Jason Howell and Ryan Broniger. You think of Olin Buchanan and David Nuño. As we're going to start off the show with a little recruiting talk here on TexAgs. I'm kidding, of course. Those guys are great. We'll have Liucci on the show at 9 a.m. to talk about Avery Morco and Zayden Krempin, who both committed yesterday.
I'm amazed at what's going on with the recruiting.
It's good.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like being at the dice table on a hot streak. Man, they just keep rolling sevens.
I didn't know that. I'm kidding. Avery Morco, 6'6", 275, Fort Bend, Ridgepoint. He was one of those that, you know, we had Bronny on the show yesterday, that we knew he was going to be committing. I don't believe we knew Zayden Krempin was going to be committing yesterday. I think he just kind of decided it's time to go all in on A&M Prosper High School. Also, 6'5", 275. A couple of big dudes continuing to add to what Adam Cushing's trying to do with that offensive line.
Yeah, I'm especially bullish on, is it, how's you, Krempin? Is that
Krempin?
Yeah. Yeah. He seems to be rated higher, even though I don't know how he's rated. I don't know. I just get the feeling that he's considered a better prospect. But when I watch his tape, you know, he looks like he's got that orneriness in him that I like in an offensive lineman.
He got offered by Michigan, Texas, LSU, and Alabama.
That's all I got to know.
Right.
Who else wanted him?
Then Avery Morco he had Florida State as an option, Ole Miss, Stanford, and TCU.
Okay. Here's what's going on here, though. This coaching staff, they know what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And they see qualities they like and say, hey, we can work with this. We can build this. We can make this guy better. Now, I don't know that they're going to hit 100%, but I'm going to trust their judgment. I think, you know, we don't talk about enough is Adam Cushing. Man,
Billy had a post about him yesterday. Yeah.
What a job that guy's done.
He's done a heck of a job.
So
I mean, on the field?
Yes.
And the kind of guys that he's recruiting.
What makes me think that that he can, you know, take the guys that he's recruiting and then coach them into, you know, being big-time players.
And I also think for future, right, and we're talking about future now with 26, there's a proof of concept. When you come to Texas A&M, this is the kind of offensive line that we're establishing every year.
Well, that's the goal. Again, you remember last year, maybe it was after the South Carolina game, maybe it was another game, but Mike Elko said, look, we're going to go for it on fourth down.
Yep.
And that's who we're going to be. And, well, you don't do that unless, you know, at least typically until you get it. But the idea is I'm going to have, you know, a dominant offensive line full of, you know, war horses.
Sure.
That are going to go out there and knock people off the line of scrimmage. And they see things that they like in these guys, obviously. And, you know, I trust them.
Continuing coverage of this later on when Billy joins us at 9 a.m. All right, let's, Joel Klatt, who
hates A&M.
He does. Well, at least during the Jimbo days. And
he's a Colorado guy. He's had an issue with A&M ever since they left the Big 12.
Sure. But I think he's actually a pretty good broadcaster. Not his takes per se. Okay, there's a difference. But I think he's He's a very polished and well thought out guy. I may disagree with a lot of his takes. Okay?
Right.
I'm not talking about takes.
He can give you a good delivery.
Good delivery, and he makes a compelling case, even though I think his case sucks sometimes. Okay.
Right, okay.
He has 10 games that will shape the 2025 season. A&M is listed on there. Week 3 versus Notre Dame.
All right.
Says that A&M has got one of the most unique fan bases in all of college football. He's very high on Marcus Freeman, the perfect fit at Notre Dame. He says that for Notre Dame, though, this is going to be very important for their national championship or postseason aspirations. He's not talking about A&M's postseason aspirations. He's talking about Notre Dame's here because, they don't have a very difficult schedule. So that Miami and Texas A&M game early in September will set a tone for them. And they've had some losses in September. Let's see. They've lost over the years to Northern Illinois, which would happen right after they beat A&M. Marshall and Ohio State since Freeman took over.
Marshall. I remember that was Buckner was the quarterback.
Tyler Buckner.
Yeah. And then Alabama said, he's going to be the guy.
Right.
Yeah. You lose to Marshall at Notre Dame, you're probably not the guy.
So last year they were a better team as the season went on, which is what you aspire. That's what you want, right? You want your team to be hitting their stride, if you're good, by the way, at the end of the season. Opportunity for A&M potentially in September, because if Notre Dame is going to be one of these playoff-worthy teams, let's say they beat Miami, if you have an opportunity to beat a Notre Dame team that's going to be in your top 10, and a team that at that point, I don't know if they will know their identity. I think A&M will know their identity in September. I think we know A&M's identity. I think Notre Dame's going to have to figure out theirs. They know what they want to be, but they're going to have to prove that they can do it.
I think that they know that they're going to be a running team. They got that offensive line coming back, the one that A&M couldn't
get through
exploit last year, and now they're back. They may not have as much depth. They got a good offensive line that's going to start.
I will never talk bad about their offensive line again. Ever. I thought we'd have 59 sacks in that game.
Well, they did typically take 3-step drops and got the ball out fast.
Yeah.
But they did not win that game based on their passing game. They did it on their running game
and missed tackles.
And Riley Leonard actually running for some first downs. He did have that big fourth and 5 completion, 3rd and 5. Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah. So, but I do think there's an opportunity if Notre Dame has had some of these early season losses over the years. Okay, and again we're talking theory here. But they have. That's happened the last 3 years with them. Opportunity for A&M, who I think will be more established at quarterback. Doesn't mean that Marcel's going to be better, whoever they throw out there, right?
They're going to be better at quarterback in that game than they were last year.
Yep.
I feel confident about that.
Now, going into the game, I didn't think. There was an even matchup, but
then they were in that game.
Yeah. Then what actually happened.
Because even Connor Wigman will tell you he played the worst game of his life.
Yep.
So if Connor Wigman plays an average game, A&M wins that game.
Average. He played very below average.
Might as well have me out there.
Yeah, it might have been the same score. Anyway, let's go through week 1, a couple of the games. The week 1 ones we've already discussed. Texas, Ohio State. I don't know if it's going to shape college football, but one of those two teams is going to be, they'll probably be number 1 after that game.
Probably.
Right.
I mean, Penn State might have something to say about that, but very, very good chance.
LSU, Clemson.
That's going to be interesting. LSU's lost their season opener 5 years in a row, or 6. 5 or 6 years in a row.
Yeah, I knew it was the entire Brian Kelly regime.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6 years in a row.
Okay.
Remember they lost to UCLA with Orgeron?
That's right.
Come down here with your sissy blue shirt. And then they beat him. So 5 or 6.
Yeah,
but it's an SEC team.
Clemson's pretty good.
Yeah.
The
last time they played an SEC team, they lost to South Carolina.
And I think Clemson is a little bit more, like LSU's going to be, LSU at the beginning of the season, it's kind of like Notre Dame. LSU, they're going to have to figure out a lot of things. They'll be fine at quarterback. They should be able to throw the ball, no problem. They have some very talented receivers. I need to see more from their defense.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2. Do you care about Michigan and Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think that game's going to be intriguing for both quarterbacks. You know, Michigan was a quarterback disaster last year, and Oklahoma was an offensive disaster last year.
And Oklahoma's completely upgraded their offense. Bryce Underwood making his first major start.
Yeah.
Well, upgraded from names, right?
Right.
Exactly right. They hope. We already talked about week 3. Let's see what else we have here. Do I have anything for week 4? I don't have one for week 4. I have one for week 5. Oregon at Penn State.
Big game.
USC at Illinois. I don't care. I know Brett Bielema had a nice year, and people were talking about him, and I think he, but no. Let's see. Alabama at Georgia.
Well, that's always a big game.
That's a very big game. Okay.
When they play it.
Let's see. Week 10, Penn State at Ohio State.
Yeah, that'll probably be for the conference championship. Oregon might have something to say about that, but I would imagine that'll be a de facto championship game.
And then week 11, always a big game, LSU, Alabama.
Where's that one?
At Alabama.
At Alabama. I thought they were in Alabama last year. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Both of those teams are expected to be very good, and both of those teams have some serious question marks.
Week 12, always a big game, Ohio State, Michigan. I think Ohio State's going to be where they normally are. Do you believe Michigan's going to be where they've been the last few years? I don't know if they're going to be as good, obviously, as they were 2 years ago, but I think they'll be significantly better than they were last year. They were a better team in the second half of last season. Obviously, so they had some big wins. They were when they took on Texas, they weren't very good. Yeah, their quarterback situation was atrocious. And it's funny, though. I do think Michigan will be better, much better. But, man, anytime you go into a season and you're relying on a true freshman quarterback, how much better can you get? Right. One team. Both of them, though, freshmen. Julian Sayin and Bryce Underwood. But I think just off the top of my head, I'm believing that Ohio State has a better roster than Michigan does. I agree with that. Hey, this is TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Currently, we're hanging out where? In the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. I love the Cool Zone. It is kind of cool in here today, too. Cool. Yeah. A little cool. Let's go around the room and talk to the people. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do that by calling us up on the Buffy's Catering Hotline. That number, 979-693-1150. You can text that number as well. What do you think about these 10 games? And what do you think? Do you think the A&M Notre Dame game can shape the college football season? 979-693-1150. Behind the glass is Nick Savage, our director. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all. And David, are you surprised that the Mavs actually picked Cooper Flagg? There's a part of me that wanted them to trade the pick or not pick him or something, just for the hilarity of the situation. But are you actually surprised they pulled the trigger?
Not surprised at all. I think it's interesting that 3 Texas teams have, they got some interesting storylines. Well, I'm not surprised because I think that was all arranged. Yeah. You don't think he was that stupid, right? Like, he can't be that dumb to trade Luka. I think that was all arranged. Hey, trade Luka to the Lakers because we need the Lakers. We need to boost the Lakers, especially with James being old and on his way out. Right. And Lakers got to be a marquee franchise. So you do this, and we'll make sure you get the first pick, and then you draft Flagg. I think this was all arranged. Do we all think that they could be better now after the trade and getting Cooper Flagg? Better than they were? No. I don't either. No. But let me ask you this. How many Duke players from Duke, basketball players, do you see going to the NBA and become great? Not good, not even very good, great. Grant Hill, if it wasn't for an injury, great, but he was great. Okay, Grant Hill. Great. Grant Hill's great. Great in the NBA. J.J. Redick wasn't great. Great. Who's been great? That's kind of my point. Danny Ferry? Danny Ferry? I mean, even Zion Williams? Not great. He was supposed to be the next big. Yeah. Tell me, somebody, remind me. I got to be missing somebody. Not good, not even real good, but great. Now I'm going to ask you the same question about, and I know the answer, by the way. North Carolina. Well, that Jordan guy was. He's pretty good. I would call him great. Maybe the greatest ever.
Oh, without a doubt.
Nick, I'm not used to you being an NBA guy. Welcome to the club.
Well, I'm not. I was just, I was, me and Luke and the boys were talking about it, so we were kind of giving Luke a hard time, just hoping that they wouldn't pull the trigger. But no, I'm not. Don't worry, I'm not. Still not on. Still not on board.
I saw a press conference with Nico where he's like, I hope fans relax with me now. I think he was asked the question.
No, they won't.
Unless they win an NBA championship.
I heard that they were chanting "Fire Nico" last night at their draft party.
It's probably a weird place to be because where you were 2 months ago, right? You traded away one of the faces of the NBA, a team that was in the NBA Finals, to drop, like, now we're like the worst team in the league, to like, hey, we got a fighter's chance this year.
I hope he's as good as everybody says he's going to be.
Yeah.
Hope he's not turn out to be another a la Abdelnami.
Oh, that's old school right there. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Censor, Embry Heath. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good.
Okay.
We got some news in track. Adriana Tatum is headed to Texas A&M for track and field. Arizona State transfer, adding some depth. She holds a school record at ASU in the 100-meter and 200-meter. Her personal bests include 11:30 in the 100-meter and 22:46 in the 200-meter.
Okay. Anything else for us this morning?
We have a lot of commits. Like you said, we have Zane Becker headed to Aggieland. He hit 258 last season with 6 RBIs, 3 doubles, a homer, and 5 walks.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Olin, when we come back, I'm going to ask you to put your thinking hat on, okay? Maybe do a little research during the break.
Okay.
You tell me who the top 3 passers in the SEC are going to be next year, okay? 25 season. I want you to tell me 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
All right?
In terms of yardage.
Yeah. Who's going to lead? Yeah, with the most yards. We'll talk about that on the other side. If you need to think about it a little bit more, and you think maybe protein will help you kind of just get into that Zen mode, that thinking mode, where would you go?
Oh, 1775.
Oh, you answered that quite quickly.
Oh, cool, because it's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Which makes it perfect for me. But if I want some barbecue, when do I not?
Right.
When I want it, it's typically Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And I want it from 1775. I want that succulent, soft brisket. And I want that those amazing pork ribs and the jalapeno cheese sausage. And you got to have a side. And there's no sidekick better. I mean, it's like the Robin to the Batman is the queso mac and cheese.
Queso mac and cheese.
Yeah.
This is a fake true story. I remember when we went to 1775, I treated OB like I treat my dogs with a treat. I threw some brisket up in the air. And what'd you do?
I jumped up and snatched it out of the air with my mouth.
Show it. You went a little higher than that, I think.
Well, I wasn't sitting.
1775, call them up, 979-492-6241, or check out the website, 1775txbbq.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance, Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We did have a senior moment. The Mavs have a great Duke player in Kyrie Irving.
I'm saying, greatness that.
Kyrie will be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of players in the Hall of Fame. And if that makes you great, okay. But, I'm talking about those
transcendent players. I don't know. Jason Tatum is on that list, right?
Right. But then I would say, all right, now take all those first rounders that come out of Duke for the last 50 years.
Okay.
And so we're coming up with maybe, I think Grant Hill can be debated. But so is it Kyrie Irving and Tatum?
And Grant.
Okay.
I'm going to read you some more.
Okay.
And some of these were not all-time greats, okay?
All right.
This is, by the way, welcome to Duke Radio. Zion.
Yeah.
Not great.
Bust.
Christian Laettner, journeyman.
Yeah.
Elton Brand.
He's a good player.
Very and good. I think he's a GM now, right?
Yeah, but he was a good player.
My buddy, Shane Battier. Shane's great.
Good player.
Really solid player. Luol Deng.
Dang near.
Dang. Brandon Ingram. Silence. Paolo Banchero.
Cherokee Parks.
There's another one.
So, anyway, that's all I'm saying. Luka was a proven commodity.
Yep.
And this kid may be great.
I hope he's great.
I hope he's great too.
I hope he's great.
I hope he is a great player.
Yep. I gave you a homework assignment at the break. I want you to tell me who you think are going to be the three, because I have my own list.
Okay, number one, because you wanted me to rank them, the top three passing quarterbacks in terms of yardage next year. I think number one is going to be Garrett Nussmeier.
I agree with you. He threw
Because
for 3,800 yards basically last year.
they want to throw, and he has good receivers. I really like that Anderson kid there, Aaron Anderson. He's I think he had that long touchdown against the Aggies. So I look for teams that want to throw the football and have guys that can do something with it. So number two, I'm probably going to say Ty Simpson from Alabama.
Okay, because of that. He's got his
Ryan Williams.
Ryan Williams. He's also got Grubb back, or Kalen DeBoer's got Grubb back.
And DeBoer wants to throw the ball.
Right.
And then I guess my third guy might be Jackson Arnold.
Okay.
They want to throw, and I don't know what they have as running backs. They lost Jaquez Hunter. So I think they're going to want to throw. And he's got receivers. A lot of them.
I'm going to give you my list.
Okay.
Number one, Nuss. Okay. He was second in the SEC last year. He's great.
Yeah, we're going there.
Number two, I'm buying the hype for yardage. I don't know if I'm buying the hype for greatness. John Mateer.
Okay.
He threw for 3,000 at Washington. I think he'll have better skill players. He'll be playing against better defenses as well. So we'll see. Okay.
I do wonder about who their receivers are. I think Isaiah Centenius ended up there.
Did he end up there?
Yeah, I
he
think
left.
so.
And then number three, I have Austin Simmons.
Ole Miss likes to throw the ball.
Lane Kiffin's reputation to me is the why there. Jackson Dart last year led the SEC in passing. He's in the 3 years he was there, he was, I think, top three all 3 years. And the year before that, in 21, when I got to TexAgs, Matt Corral was in the top three as well. So I think you go play for Lane Kiffin, you're going to throw for a lot of yards, which is Captain Obvious. I didn't have Arch on my list. Could he be in the top three? Sure.
Could be, but I think they want to run the ball more than all the teams we've listed does.
Yeah. Could DJ Lagway be there? I don't know.
Now, I think what makes Lagway so dangerous, same as Marcel. I think you're going to. He could have 3,000 plus yards, but you're going to that may be 2,400 passing, 2,500 passing, and 700 running.
Yeah. Where do you think Marcel will be? If we're talking about if you ranked 1 through 16 yardage, and I know there'll be some backups that are moved in, whatever it may be. Kind of like where he ranks in the quarterbacks?
Yeah,
in
probably.
The middle of the pack?
Yeah, probably. I would guess Marcel would average about 250 yards passing a game.
Yeah.
Is that 3,000 yards over 12 games, right?
Yeah.
So I would guess he's going to average, or he's going to have about 3,000 yards passing, and he's probably going to have 500 to 700 yards rushing.
Okay.
And have a really good year.
I'm looking up the top passing from the SEC from last year, just so we can just kind of have a feel for it. Passing yards, okay?
Okay.
So last year, Jackson Dart threw for 4,200 yards. He was first, and then I told you about Garrett Nussmeier. But let's see who was in the 3,000 mark. There's only 5 quarterbacks in the SEC that threw for more than 3,000 yards. Taylon Green was number 5. Quinn Ewers was 4. Carson Beck was 3. Nussmeier and Dart were on the top of the list. So if he is at 3,000, not saying that you can look at one year and it translates to the next, but the 10 through 6 range, we're looking at 2,500 yards to 2,800 yards. So in that range.
See, and I didn't put Arch in my top 3. I think he's going to throw a lot of yards, but I think Texas wants to run some. Probably even more than they did last year. When you got Baxter coming back and Wisner the way he ran last year, and you don't have Matthew Golden out there. Now I know they've got other good guys, Wingo, and they brought in a guy, and they got these 5-star freshmen coming in. But I don't know how you say you lose a guy like Golden and say, hey, we're even better at receiver.
So I'm looking at Lagway's stats just to have the conversation with you. Rushing wise, he rushed last year for just 101 yards, which I would have thought a little bit more than that.
Well, how many times did he get sacked?
He was sacked 13 times.
So, and then you got to take into account, how many times he was hurt and yada yada yada.
Right.
I think he's a big running threat, I believe so. But look, I'm all in on Lagway too. I think he's spectacular. But
by the way, the comparisons between Marcel and Lagway they've been around because we talked about it
in January.
But yards wise, passing wise, yeah. But Marcel also did rush for over 500 yards last year, so there is that component. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. I think Stephen McGee's going to be here.
All right.
He might be on Zoom, but I think he'll be here. He's on Zoom. Disregard. We'll have Stephen McGee on Zoom. I'm going to have some fun with this segment. We're talking some business, and we'll have a little fun.
All right.
Let's do that. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. There's car buying, and then there's car buying at Caldwell Country Chevrolet because they're different. They have a very strong and committed sales staff. They bring decades of experience to the table with one goal, complete customer satisfaction. Whether you're looking for an SUV, a sedan, whatever it may be, they're going to help you through the entire process, and they're going to make sure you get great customer service, great value, trade-in value, and a great deal. That's what you get when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They don't just make sales, they build relationships, and that's why they offer the complimentary pickup and delivery for all of their service customers. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan, to the beginnings of Caldwell, a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and you do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. We go to the Buffy's Catering Hotline. Stephen McGee, our QB1. Paragon Financial's best. What's up, buddy?
Good morning, gentlemen.
You're in a good mood. Look at that smile. Look at that.
Yeah. Good day, man. Why not? Let's smile a little bit.
The market must be getting off to a good start today.
I got to know, there's got to be some good juice OB's been laying out for you this morning, Nuño. Anything good off air?
Nothing off air. No, but he has a very narrow definition of great when it comes to, and I know Stephen McGee's all in on the NBA.
No, in all things, all sports, or in all things, I think the word great gets used too often. I think great is not pretty good or really good. There's this different level of greatness. Like, for instance, Ryan Tannehill at A&M. He was really good, but Johnny Manziel was great.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with you, OB. I think that the term great should be reserved for a very small group of elite performers. And we probably dilute that a little bit too much. There are good football players that have great moments at A&M, and we often remember those great moments. But I would say as an aggregate look at their entirety of their career, you would say, yeah, they were really good. But I reserve, to your point, OB, great for the Johnny Manziels, the Miles Garretts, those type of players.
Okay, is Ryan Swope at A&M, was he great?
Yeah, he was great.
I would agree.
Yeah, he was great. He's the numbers speak for themselves.
I think, and this is one of my all-time favorite football players at A&M is Mike Evans. I don't know that he had a great year. I think he was greater in the NFL than he was in college.
Yeah. I think he was a great college football player, though. I will say that. Even though I agree with you, I think is the right term more great? You're the writer here, the journalist, OB. Is it
stupendous?
Greater?
He's stupendous.
All right. So who has been great at A&M? Great. Your definition of great, which is
elite.
Elite. At A&M.
At A&M.
In the 2020s. And you can choose all sports, but let's start with football.
Well, of course, Johnny Manziel.
In the 2020s.
I thought you meant 20. Okay. Yeah, my bad.
Would we put Devon Achane in the great category?
I think Devon Achane had great qualities.
Could have been great.
Could have been.
Could have been great.
But
didn't get the ball.
I think his coach kept him from being great.
I agree.
Anybody else?
He was great in that last game of the year when they gave him the ball. It was like 25 times against LSU or whatever. And you just sit there saying, man, what could have been?
I think I'm probably missing somebody obvious, but what I'm thinking right now is the closest. I thought Travion Williams had a great year.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd call him great. I think right off the top of my head, again, I'm probably missing somebody obvious, but the only great that comes to mind right now is Adrian Cooper.
Okay.
Oh, I was about to go there, OB. God, we are linked up this morning. Yes. Cooper is great. Somebody said A&M hasn't had a great linebacker. And I said, wait a minute. Are we forgetting Edwin Cooper? That dude was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was great. I wish he had been great here one more year.
Would we agree Wade Taylor falls in the great category?
Yeah. So
you don't watch enough
I don't know anything about basketball.
Somebody's going to say Jace Lavalette.
Jace Lavalette was great. Yeah. He's an all-time leading home run hitter. He's took us to an inning away from the national championship.
Are we willing to call Sorrell great?
He's on his way.
Okay. He's approaching greatness.
He hasn't played enough.
You know who falls in this category? I'm interested.
Did I say her name right? Mo? Yeah, she was great.
Mo, yeah. She was great. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I would say that Shamar Stewart is a great conversation piece around this. He is a really good football player, but he was not great at A&M. There's just not enough production. And I think that kind of defines what great is. You got to be a really good football player, but then you also have to have the combined production over the entirety of your career, in my opinion.
Yeah, see, Von Miller was great. We'll all agree with
for
that.
the last 2 years. For the last 2 years, I think you would say
if you be great, if you in college, if you can be great for 2 years, that makes you great.
I agree.
In college,
I totally agree.
Sammy
Joe
Bennett.
Burrow was great.
Okay, yeah.
Sammy Bennett, Stephen.
The golfer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, once you get off football, I really struggle. But yes.
Is Liucci great? You're damn right he is. He signs the check.
I don't think he signs it.
Hey, I'll tell you another one. Nick Savage.
Great.
Elite. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to push back on that one.
Oh gosh.
I love you, Stephen.
Was Stephen McGee great?
All right, I got another one.
That's Texas.
Richard Zane. Zane calling out.
Hey, Richard Zane is great if you want to spell it Grate, because he just grates on my damn nerves.
There you go. Yes. I know we're missing one in there though. There's got to be, man. I'll tell you one.
I mean, was Terrence Murphy great?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought Christian Kirk.
Great.
Christian Kirk was great.
Yeah. He's one of the all-timers. I put him up there with.
I thought Anais Smith was great.
Yeah.
That's Edgerrin Cooper and Anais Smith to me are the.
OB, hey, we are linked up right now. That's exactly, yes. Anais Smith is probably one of my favorite football players, not named Ryan Swope. I love the way that dude competed. He would line up a running back and block. He didn't care. It wasn't about him. It was about the team. Those type of people, in my opinion, are great for things they do other than just the production they have at the wide receiver position. That dude was good.
Hey, I wanted to bring this up. There's a Athlon's got their rankings and lists, and they have Heisman contenders. Okay, and I don't want to spend a long time on some of these Heisman contenders, but I thought it was interesting that our guy was on their list, way down on their list, but on their list. Okay,
Marcel
was on there, so they got a tier 1 Arch, Nuss, Kate Klubnik, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, Lenore Sellers, Dante Moore at Oregon, Julian Sayin, DJ Lagway, Drew Aller, Carson Beck. Those are on their tier 1. Tier 2, he's not there yet. Sam Levitt, Jeremiah Love, Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Williams. And then don't forget about these guys. And on there, Marcel Reed was on the list.
Very often, the Heisman Trophy recipient is a guy that was under the radar going into the season.
And has a great year.
And has a great. I wouldn't say it's an impossibility.
Got to be a double-digit win team, right?
Probably.
How many guys are on that list total?
They don't have a number. There's a lot on the list.
But I bet Arch is in. I bet Arch is high on the list.
Yeah, Arch is tier 1. There's a tier 2.
And Marcel's actually played more.
Yeah.
Of course, then you can say, yeah, well, he hadn't played as well. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, I agree with you, OB.
Go back and look at that ULM game.
A lot of pressure on that kid.
I think he seems like a really good kid, too.
I agree. Yeah, the interview he had the other day where, what does the Manny name mean? And, he said basically a bunch of undeserved hype.
Well,
I love that answer.
He was willing to sit for 2 years.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks today will do that?
That's hard.
So he seems like a really good guy. If he played for anybody else, I'd probably wish him the best.
Yeah.
But I don't, Arch. Because you chose poorly. But
I'm gonna keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. The best
list see that.
For the Heisman is the one in which Marcel Reed is not included on there. I want the chip on the shoulder. I don't want their name mentioned.
Well, what about Le'Veon Moss then? I mean, I know he's not on that list.
He's not on the list. The 2 running backs from Penn State are on this list. Le'Veon's not.
If you got 2, you're not going to win it.
Right. Well, and technically A&M has 2 or 3.
Yeah, but they're really going to.
They're really going to divide.
There's a difference between letting somebody have a series off to rest and sharing carries with it. Between 2 guys.
I think Ruben's going to get a lot of touches. You don't think?
Yes, I do. But if Le'Veon is having another all SEC caliber season, then you got to feed that horse.
All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. I'm going to talk to you. Well, I'll wait because there's a buy, sell, lease can kind of combine with this topic that we're going to have. We'll do that on the other side. Right now, when insurance matters most, who's going to answer your call? That's the Rollo Insurance Group. They're fantastic at what they do. You don't have to call a tree hotline, 1-800 this. Now you can get a direct number, not a call center, automated system. They're the official insurance provider of TexAgs Live. The difference is real. They have 60 offices in the great state of Texas. Whether it's home, auto, or business or insurance, start a relationship with experts who put you first. Your agent becomes your personal friend, and they know your specific situation, providing a customized protection mass market plan. And when you need advice or have a claim, you call Rollo Insurance. You'll speak directly with somebody who knows you by name. That's the difference at Rollo, the Rollo Insurance difference. Visit rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That's rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs, or call them up, 888-44-ROLLO. That's 888-44-ROLLO. Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games. They're at Olsen wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, Nuño, and Stephen McGee on the Butt Pizza Catering Hotline. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a school, right? And you tell me the celebrity that you think identifies with that school.
Oh, okay.
All right? And then we're going to play a little buy, sell, lease on this same concept. So when I say A&M, Stephen, who are some of the celebrities you think of?
Dude Perfect.
Dude Perfect, great one. OB?
Law Lovett.
Lyle Lovett. Put Robert O'Keen on there.
Yeah.
Rip Torn. I don't think the kids know who that is.
Yeah, wasn't he only here for a year?
Is that it?
I think so.
Okay. Do we count President Bush?
We
honorary degree.
I mean, he put his.
I think we count him, right?
But he went to Yale.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Governor Perry.
Governor Perry. Okay.
Yeah.
Good hair.
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Football. Yeah. All right. When I say Texas, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Renee Zellweger, whatever her name is.
Farrah Fawcett.
She went to Texas.
Yeah. There's a long list of people that I would mention that wouldn't be appropriate on air, but football wise, I kind of identified the quarterbacks. My era was Major Applewhite.
Yeah.
But Vince Young and Colt and
well, I'm thinking more non-sports in this.
Okay, non-sports.
So like Alabama. I didn't know this, but Channing Tatum went to Alabama apparently. I didn't know that. You guys know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that one.
Sheryl Crow, Missouri.
Huh.
Really?
Darius Rucker.
Can you name a Sheryl Crow? Ooh, Darius Rucker.
South Carolina.
He went to Alabama?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah, that's right. I should know that. He was on game day. I like him.
Apple CEO Tim Cook went to Auburn. Yep. Yeah. Here's one. Jim Ross and Toby Keith went to
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
I didn't know he went to Oklahoma. I thought he went to a smaller school. But
Well, he probably did,
fan.
but he's identified with them.
Oh yeah, okay, identified.
Skip Bayless.
Vanderbilt.
Vandy. Yeah, I couldn't think of anybody else that was from Vandy. Florida. There's a couple that.
There's got to be some famous people that made tons of money that went to Vanderbilt. It's a good school.
Yeah.
Florida.
Florida. The guy who invented Gatorade went to Florida.
This is true. Yeah.
What's his name though?
I don't know.
Mr. Gator.
I just know he's just known as the guy who invented Gatorade.
Aaron Andrews, Florida.
That's right. Andy Staples. Yeah, all those.
Ric Flair.
Woo!
I knew that was coming.
That's the top of the list, OB.
Yeah.
Woo!
LSU.
LSU.
Oh man.
There's that
James Carville.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's an anti-hero.
I read that Tim McGraw's an LSU guy. Is that true?
I don't know if he's an LSU guy, but he's a Louisiana guy, if that makes so. But yes, he's an LSU fan. He is an LSU fan.
Ashley Judd, we know that's Kentucky.
I saw her at the one time. I was standing as close to her as I am sitting to you at the.
Lucky her.
Yeah, she was hitting on me. I said, no, I wasn't interested. Down in San Antonio when they played Utah for the national championship in basketball.
Arkansas, Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
Yeah. So now buy, sell, lease. You're stuck in an elevator. You got to buy who you want to spend the most time with in an elevator. And here are your three options. Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Darius Rucker. Skip Bayless.
Okay. I've got that's easy for me.
Go for it.
Okay, number one, Darius Rucker.
Yeah.
Hey, I like his song. Hey, I was like, how were the Blowfish?
I don't think they're existing anymore.
How were? That's why I said were, past tense. Probably Matthew McConaughey. He's from Longview. I'm from East Texas. And then Skip Bayless. Why would anybody want to be with Skip Bayless?
Steven?
Oh, man. I got to be the exact same order, I think. Matthew McConaughey doesn't bother me as much as I think a lot of Aggie fans.
That's his team. That's his team. He's
like
rooting
Matthew.
for his team.
Yeah. I couldn't hang out with him.
I wish we had somebody that's that identifiable that was at A&M games rooting for their team to that degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could hang out with him if he wasn't talking Texas.
Yeah, I totally would.
You know, I'm going to tell you, I'm all right with Matthew McConaughey.
Great actor.
Played OB.
Great.
$1 million.
Well, but that doesn't mean you're a great actor.
And your definition of great, he is in the great category. I'm not talking about the rom-coms he made in the 90s.
I don't think
Time to Kill.
I don't think he's a great actor. I think he's a very
True
good
Detective.
Actor.
Oh my God.
True Detective.
I
like that show, by the way.
That show was great. Yes, he's in the great category.
Okay, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
McGee, agree or disagree?
Yeah, the definition of great, I mean, like if is it college level great? Or are we saying like he's the best of the best on the?
I think he's a very good actor and for his craft. You say great. Well, how many? You said about money. How much money does Arnold Schwarzenegger made in his movies? But I'm not sure he's a great actor.
Has he gotten the best? Didn't he get an Academy Award?
No.
Didn't McConaughey get an Academy Award?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah,
I think he did,
right.
or if he was definitely nominated for it. The one day he was
got more
dying.
Questions today, Nuño, that I have no earthly idea what the answer is to today. Like I'm just sitting here speechless. I couldn't tell you a single person non-football related to any of these schools. And I have no. You're talking about movies.
Surely you know the Auburn guy.
I do. I know the Auburn guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Tim Cook. Yes.
I mean, that's kind of your business.
We got to drop it there, Stephen. Thank you, brother.
Ashton Kutcher went to Iowa.
See you
Is that
guys.
right? All right, we got to drop it there. Obi,
All right.
thank you, sir. When we come back on TexAgs Live, Billy Liucci on a mobile.
He's great.
That's next. It's been a big month for A&M recruiting. We're going to talk about it. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We go to the Buc-ee's Catering Hotline. That's where we find Billy Liucci, the co-owner of TexAgs and executive editor, and our good buddy. Billy, good morning, buddy.
Nuño, how are you, buddy?
I'm well. You coming in tomorrow?
Apparently so.
Okay.
You guys just, work me to the bone.
Well, that's what we like to do. Did you, by any chance, catch the end of the segment with McGee and OB?
I've got it queued up, so I haven't caught it yet. I'm running a little behind. I just got past the part where the back room, I guess, body bagged OB, and just took his Duke hasn't ever produced name one. I agree with his point of Duke players tend to be overrated in terms of the NBA level, but he was just literally ready to die on the hill, regardless of what you threw at him. Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving. He said he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And OB goes, yeah, well, I mean, great players. There's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame. That was the line where he lost the battle. But he was right. Duke players typically not living up to the hype. He could just stop there. So that's where I've cut off. So I have not heard the end of OB and McGee yet.
Well, here's the thing. He also didn't think Matthew McConaughey is considered a great actor. And I'm like, pretty sure he's either won an Oscar or been nominated for an Oscar. Like, I feel like he's in that category of great.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been a big fan of his work since for a long time. I love, Dazed and Confused, and what's the one where they're in A Time to Kill? Thought he was great.
So good
True Detective, but I just don't feel like lately has been as good. But
Dallas Buyers Club?
Never saw it. Wasn't interested in seeing that one, but I don't know. I think he's a good actor. He might not be the Kyrie Irving of actors. There's a lot of actors in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. He's texting right now, but I'm driving, so I can't look. But no, he also was right about. I'll give it to you. He's wrong about McConaughey. He's right about Mick Jagger being cooler than Justin Timberlake. They ain't even close.
Well, if you ask any of the youngsters that work here, they will disagree. Anyway, let's talk about the great recruiting run that Coach Elko is on right now. Yesterday, 2 more guys added to the commitment list, Avery Morco and Zayden Krempton. If you want to just start off with just this run that they're on this entire month of June and really the entire 25.
It's insane. I just kept talking right through your delay because that was insane. I don't know how it could be this bad. I don't know how in 2025 College Station radio connection could be that bad that there's that big a delay. But Mick Jagger's in his 80s, and he's still cooler than Justin Timberlake in his 40s. Timberlake, you see how he had no staying power? No one considers Justin Timberlake cool anymore, and I used to. So, no, in no comparison. You want to talk about O-line commits, fine, but I had to get that out of my system.
Yeah, I actually may have changed my mind on that as well. I saw a video of Timberlake about a year ago. I'm like, he's not cool anymore. So, I did give OB his props on that. All right, Avery Morco, Zayden Krempton, and just what Coach Elko's doing overall.
Yeah, Adam Cushing's pretty cool right now, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's been, I think, great since he got here. I wrote a little write-up in my, today's thought segment yesterday, late last night. I think people are starting to realize today's thoughts. We might want to change it to tonight's thoughts. But unless I just get one day ahead, it's just going to be hard to do. But so, anywho, Cushing, the job he did on the field last year was terrific. And then you look at the class that the Aggies just signed that are freshmen right now. So you got your first glimpse of them in spring ball. I think, every one of them was here. I think Tyler Thomas from Dickinson was a real revelation during spring ball in terms of his future potential. And then Lamont Rogers, you went out and got basically the highest of high 4-stars or 5-star, depending on what service you subscribe to, but elite, coveted national the O-line group in general that they brought in, they were really encouraged with what they look like in the spring. So kind of like, okay, this class, we hit on this group, and going into this year, I think they'll end up taking 4. Okay. They've got 3 now. And I think it's a perfect kind of across the board demonstration of what Cushing does. They don't go off rankings. It's very clear. You mentioned a guy like Morcho, and then you look at Krempin, and that's a guy that is ranked, is nationally recruited, and then you go back a week ago to Roseboro, and it's the same thing, but yet they go out of state, do a great eval to find him over there in Clearwater, Florida. So that's kind of what you're looking at in terms of Adam Cushing and Texas A&M O-line recruiting. So to me, I said this yesterday, I think Morcho reminds me a lot of Demetrius Crownover. Krempin reminds me a lot of a guy like Trey Zoon. He's longer armed, more of a pure tackle. And then here you have Zoon potentially being an all SEC tackle this year, but Zoon can play anywhere. Zoon can play center. Zoon can play guard. The NFL is going to say he's got a little bit shorter arms and they prefer a tackle, and Zoon's going to go, well, I don't care. Play me wherever. I can play anywhere on the offensive line. I think he may show that this year. He can show it. He can play anywhere. Krempin, I think, is more of a pure tackle. I thought it was really important for them to do well at the tackle position this year. I think they've got 3 guys that could play it. I think Roseboro grow into a big road grading interior guy. Morcho is pure tackle, a lot of raw upside, a terrific athlete. I accidentally listed him 295. I think he's more in the 275 range, but every bit of 6'6". Can move. I think you're going to see him really fill out. Again, Crownover's a nice template to look at when you're thinking of somebody like this. Cedric Ogbuehi was more highly rated, but that's a guy that you looked at and you knew exactly how he's going to fill out that frame as he got older. I think this guy, you can just take one look at him and see where he's going with that. And the other thing that I've heard from a lot of people over there that watch a lot of their football games and from scouts, he is a nasty football player. He gets down and dirty at the line of scrimmage, and he'll finish fools. And that, to me, when you're that tall and that big and that, long-armed, it's easy to be a little bit more finesse and kind of have, then there's that question mark of can they be physical and tough enough for the SEC? That's not him. He's got that nasty streak. He's a finisher. So that part of it is really appealing, and that's probably part of why Cushing and the Aggies liked him so much. And then Krempin, I thought that was one. I thought Krempin was a guy I wanted the whole time. And it's an interesting story about Zayden. I've got a 15-year frame in scouting. Been an NFL scout since I've known him. And his son goes to high school with Zayden, and families know each other. And I've just been hearing about him, Nuño, since he was in 9th grade. Oh. So it's always interesting when those ones pan out, and become the prospect that whether it's a scout or a friend or somebody as a family member. Like right now, there's Bronny and I talk every day about my man Travis Fiedler, who I've known since he was born, and now might be the number one. He may end up being the number one shortstop prospect in the country in his baseball class. So it's crazy to see these type things. But with Krempin, I hadn't. There are 10 guys to 1 that pan out when you start talking about how good they're going to be in 9th grade, and he's one of the ones that panned out in a big way, and you can see it coming for over a year now. That's a head-to-head over Texas, Michigan, and LSU. That's great. That doesn't really matter. Pop in the tape and watch him play. I mean, to me, he checks every box you want for an offensive line signee, and they had to fight a real battle to get him. So that's some outstanding recruiting by Cushing, Elko, and company. that was a real battle. In Texas right now, what they're doing, same thing they did with Roseboro. They didn't really do it with KJ Edwards, but they've been, some of these guys that they magically didn't, now the narrative becomes, well, it is true in a lot of cases. I think this is a fair point when you're talking about like different prospects. Well, NIL, that they valued this position more than that one, and that other school valued this one, or, well, they're going to get Turntine and Ojo. Well, first of all, I think I've been feeling good about Krempin if you've been reading what I've been writing for well over a week, long before, probably closer to 2 weeks, long before, really since his visit, to be honest with you. And since after his Texas visit, that was long before Texas was in any kind of driver's seat or pole position for Turntine. Long before that, like clearly before. And you're insane if you think the Longhorns wouldn't have taken that commitment yesterday. So I think Krempin right now is I put a star by him in this class, like of guys that I think are going to end up being really good. Like he was a player I wanted to see A&M land. It's a position of need. They're losing potentially all 5 starters after this year. I think there's a very real chance you could see 5 Aggie O-line starters leave. Maybe I would say 4 get drafted. So they've got a lot of rebuilding to do and reloading. Krempin's one of those guys, I think, because he's such a polish. You talked about Morcho. Because Krempin's so polished, I think he's a guy that could play fairly early. I'd compare him in some ways to like those guys that play really early at A&M on the O-line. I don't want to say this because I don't think he's not Jokel and Kenyon Green. You're talking about 2 like 5-star true freshman starters, but in terms of polish and watching him at the high school level, some of those guys like Matthews and who else started really young? Eric McCoy is another one. Kenyon, Jokel, just guys that came in ready to play, really polished, really technically sound, and he's got the frame and physicality to do it as well. I'm not sitting here saying year one, but I could certainly see him being a guy that contends to start really early in his career. So I think 2 big wins yesterday for 2 very different reasons, and 2 guys that you're going to see starting at A&M and for Adam Cushing down the road.
I'm glad you brought up the potential change on offensive line next year, because the pipeline that's already here combined with what's hopefully coming in a year. Just talk a little bit about that, because Lamont Rogers and company, like, it's obvious that they need these dudes, right? But they've got dudes waiting that could be big-time contributors next year.
Well, I immediately think of that class from 2 years ago that we don't ever talk about. Blake Ivy, Papa Afua, Ashton Funk, Robert Borden. And I think for this year, I think you could absolutely see them figuring out how to work guys like Ivy and Afua in there. Because you're going to have all new or close to all new starters a year from now. So that group's going to get lost in the shuffle because Lamont Rogers came in. He was such a big signee. But Lamont is a guy that I think is going to be elite. I think he's going to live up to the hype after watching him in the spring and hearing about him this offseason. I mentioned Tyler Thomas. That whole class in general has some dudes, particularly at the top. I think, was it a 5-man haul? Or I think it was a 6-man haul. I think the top half of that group you could see competing to start a year from now. And plus those guys I mentioned. I still think there's going to be, because you lose so many, they're going to have to go portaling for, I would guess, at least if you think they can start or be good enough to start, they got to come beat guys out. But I think you could see them going for even a couple of O-line, in search of a couple of O-line starters, like surefire, can't miss guys after this cycle. You just don't lose that many at once. But I really like where the pipeline is at. They did lose one yesterday, when Thomas committed, from you were going after a top tackle, Aaron Thomas, committed to Ohio State. That wasn't a surprise if you saw Bronny's report early yesterday. I know we were the first to say, hey, looking like Ohio State, and that was before I think Ohio State even realized that. But at the same time, you didn't want to lose that guy. I thought he was a stud. He's a 3-star. I thought he was a freaking stud. So it wasn't all victories yesterday, and I think A&M might have tapped the brakes and said, we're good on the O-line now, barring some kind of major surprise, had they been at 4 with the eye on the portal. But they might add one. We're so far from signing day. If you made me predict, I would guess they'll add one more from the high school ranks. I just don't know today as we sit here who I would predict that would be. I don't think they're sitting in that building with a locked on target onto who number 4 could or should be.
But I'm not surprised by the volume of guys that have committed because I know that's Coach Elko has he likes to get his class done early. But when I look at the numbers at this point, we're in freaking end of June, and it's a surprising amount of guys that have committed to A&M. Your thoughts on just the amount of guys with still time left?
Well, yeah, just fast forward to like July 4th, right? That weekend when you've got guys making announcements. I think it was Tank King's going to announce around then. I'm keeping an eye still on Watkins out of South Carolina. I don't know when that one goes, but I feel like A&M's in a good position, and that could be sooner than later. So you might add, Booby Feaster might stick to that announcement. I think you could be seeing them add as many as 3 in the next couple weeks, and then where you at? You look at that number and add 3 to it, and then you go, damn, they're coming down to the home stretch already, and it's 4th of July. So, and they're still fighting some really big battles. When you think of guys like Lamar Brown, you think of Tristan Keys, and you think of Lamar Brown, Tristan Keys, Tank Jones. I mean, those are 5 stars or borderline 5-star. In the case of Jones, most people consider him a 5. And they're very much in the mix for those guys, very much in the mix. So, yeah, the level they're recruiting at is pretty, again, it's unheard of around these parts. We've seen it once, and everybody wants to dwell on that. It's like I said the other day, there ain't nothing wrong with having a class that's in contention for number 1 in the country. There's nothing wrong with it. And you look at the teams that play for it year in and year out, and you look at the teams that have won them, and by them, I mean national and SEC titles, and they generally live in contention for the top spot or for a top 3 recruiting class. So whether they land 1 or they land 5 or 6, they live in that conversation year in and year out. And the fact that A&M's only done that once, it's not good enough, especially in today's day and age of NIL. It's not good enough. So what Elko's doing is it's pretty remarkable, but you ask him and their intention is to stay in that conversation because there is still very much a direct correlation to elite recruiting and winning championships. And I understand the other piece of that is development, it's retention, and there's also the portal now. So you have to be good at all of them. I don't know why, some people push back and think, well, it's just high school recruiting. They're not going to be here. Yes, they are. The majority of them, that 22 class was not normal. It's why, look, that class is why you paid a coach $75 million to walk away. And that's just the reality. And we could spend hours talking about the why, but just the simple reality, that class was such an outlier and an anomaly that it led directly to you firing a head coach that had $75 million left on his contract, because it was all just part of what led to the poor on-field performance and led to kind of what people I think viewed as a program that was declining rather than ascending. So that's such an outlier. But the reality is recruit elite high school classes, develop guys within your program, and supplement your program via the portal. That's it. That's the formula. You could look at college football last year, and that was the formula. You look at the playoff teams, you look at the Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, who got there. And, you know, like all of those teams, it is recruit high school, develop, supplement with portal. Maybe Lane Kiffin proves that wrong. Miami tried last year with an ass schedule and still couldn't get it done. LSU is kind of in that in-between world because it's almost like they're trying to do that this year, but they also still have a lot of guys that are homegrown and developed. So they're kind of an interesting case study in my opinion. But the teams that went like so heavy portal and try to accomplish it didn't. I think the answer is the way Elko's doing it. You recruit lights out at the high school level. You retain and develop guys, spend most of your NIL budget on the guys you want to keep in your program that you don't want to leave, and then you go out. And the other thing I love about this class, Nuño, is yesterday, the O-line position so far is a perfect example, right? They went out all the way to Florida and got a guy that the whole SEC wanted, that Aggie fans before his name was mentioned didn't really even know about, and they closed on him and got the commitment after a terrific visit. I think that's part of the storyline in this class right now as well. They went and fought a battle. A couple of, really all three of those guys could have committed. I mean, I say all three. Roseboro and Krempin won a couple big head-to-head battles with Texas. Krempin, you beat out a lot of people for a guy that you've had your eyes on for a long, long time as a priority target. And it was a Texas kid. Same with Morcho. And then with Morcho, you went out and you beat out TCU for a high upside, raw developmental guy. So I love what they've done. And it's indicative of this class. They're not overlooking the upside guys that they think are going to be really good.
Billy, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Nuño.
Godspeed. Billy Liucci there on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. Short open segment before we talk to AT, Aaron Torres, who's in South Florida, apparently. Ground shuttle, they offer frequent and reliable shuttles from Bryan College Station to George Bush Intercontinental Airport. So when you're traveling, how about you think about them instead of driving to Houston and going through that traffic and the construction around Bush and then having to park and spend so much money parking, and the whole thing's a mess. You let Ground Shuttle take care of you. They're in South College Station by Casa de Brazil. Take great care of you. You're sitting there. You just can sleep. You can catch up on work emails. You can do whatever. If you are traveling for business reasons, or if your kid's trying to come back home, you're listening to this in some other place, let them take care of you. They'll do it for you. They also have charter service, and you can book any of their vehicles. Their shuttle service seats up to 14 passengers. What you need to do is go to the website, groundshuttle.com. That is groundshuttle.com. Check them out the next time you're traveling to Bush Intercontinental Airport. All right, guys, let's talk about some new partners. Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. They're Aggie owned and operated. They are an mobile IV hydration company that was founded back in 2024. I met with Sheldon and Danny over the last week, and they're awesome people. They really know what they're doing. They're proud to serve Bryan College Station with awesome services like IV hydration, Botox, and even some weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs. And on a busy weekend, I know some of you guys might be partying a little bit too much. If that's the case, an IV can be one of the easiest ways to ensure you're receiving all those necessary vitamins and minerals that make you feel better. Their overall mission is to bring a more personalized and accessible wellness option to the broader range of clientele here in the Bryan College Station and Brazos Valley area. To book an appointment or inquire about it, just call them up or text them. 979-217-1561. Again, it's Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Check them out. It's our friends at Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is hour number 2. We've got a couple minutes left in this segment because we went so long with Billy Liucci. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Ambry Heath.
Hello.
Why'd you laugh?
Because you screamed my name.
Because one time I accidentally said Aubrey on the air, and you have not let me live that down.
Well, imagine I called you Dave on the air.
People have done that before.
Well,
My feelings, see, you know what? I have thick skin. Ask the viewers and the listeners. I don't ever fight people back.
I see the comments. So you have to have thick skin.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for making me feel worse about it.
Okay, Avery Morgo was asked, have you ever been able to create relationships with those guys on campus, potentially in the 26 recruiting class? He answered, one of my little league teammates is KK Johnson. I was with him most of the trip. Just him convincing me that we should play again as teammates was great. I just think this is an awesome example of how personal connections, especially that ones go back pretty far, can influence these recruiting decisions. In this case, it was a full circle moment with a fellow commit adding another layer to Morco's experience in College Station.
I like your thinking there. Look, when these coaching staffs, recruiting analysts, recruiting staff start putting together these rosters and these plans, that is, I think, all part of their messaging and their philosophy is to make sure that there are some roots at Texas A&M. And those roots can go multiple ways. They can go relationships with key recruiters, coaches, right? And also that recruiting class itself, right? If there's a friendship, dude, can you imagine me and you, quarterback, wide receiver combo, whatever it may be, I think that goes a long way, which is why when you lose one or two guys, it does sometimes have a domino effect, I should say. Barry on YouTube says, hey, Dave, or Davey.
Davey. I like that one.
Yeah?
I like it.
Thanks, Amber. What else do you have for us?
I saw someone said Nuño.
Hey.
Our AD saying it's our time is one thing. I'd rather our teams win something first. We haven't won a conference championship in 27 years.
That was the super chat, I believe, from yesterday. And yes, we kind of addressed it, but I'll say this. I'm talking about the future, right? We cannot allow the past to always mess with the way we look at our future, okay? And I think our time can be now. There's a change in college sports. Texas Tech thinks their time is right now. Cody Campbell's spending all this billions of dollars, and I don't know how much he's spending. And by the way, congratulations to him to be able to do it and do it for your university. It'd be great if I could do that. I can't. But it can be now because there's going to be some haves and have-nots. I don't know why my voice did that. And why not us? You just got to have the right people in place. I hope the administration is the right people. I hope Coach Elko's the right person for football. I hope that Michael Early's the right person for baseball. And I hope Bucky McMillan's the right person for basketball, right? Trev Alberts, and then I hope Marcel Reed is. But if you have the right people with the right timing and the right resources, that's when you can say the time is now. And I have no problem with our AD saying it is time. All right, let's do this. El Nuño, there's another one that came up there. Appreciate that.
And Dave.
And Dane.
Dane. Those are good.
I'm not a Dane.
Dane.
No, not a Dane. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back, we will talk to Aaron Torres from Aaron Torres Online and Fox Sports Radio. Let's just do a bunch of different college football topics with him. And you know what? He loves basketball. So basketball will certainly be a topic. The NBA draft happened last night. How many SEC guys were drafted? We can kind of get into that as well. I want to talk to you a little bit about Heritage Films, who preserve family stories that would otherwise be lost. If you have somebody in your family that's super important, you all do, right? Like if it's your dad, if it's your grandfather, your mother, whoever it may be, let Heritage Films tell their story in a Netflix-style documentary, 2-hour documentary that Chance McClain and his team puts together. So they do it for people. They do it for businesses, right? So TexAgs want to do a story on the origins of TexAgs. Chance McClain and his team could do that. Or your family ranch, right? Your ranch tells so much about just the fabric of your family, the work ethic, the soil that you guys grew up on, or you go visit on the weekends. And Chance does these with Farm and Ranch Films. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, or you can call Chance up directly, 713-893-8341. That is 713-893-8341. It is Heritage Films. All right, we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studios. Time for Around College Athletics, brought to you by Milliken Reserve. We go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline, joined by our buddy, Aaron Torres. Aaron Torres online and Fox Sports Radio. AT, what up?
My man, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Where are you? It sounds like a bathroom / like a Miami Sound Machine like session.
It's, no one is more critical of background music while on the phone with David Nuño than David Nuño. No, listen, this is you're trying to make fun of where I am, but these are the sacrifices that I make for the TexAgs audience. I'm on vacation in a hotel lobby, and listen, I don't stay at no quiet Holiday Inn Express, even though there's no disrespect to the Holiday Inn Express intended. I'm at a little lively joy. I'm not at a crazy place. It's just, it's a hotel lobby, and there's music, and we're having a great time, and we're about to hit the beach after I get off the phone. This is my own responsibility of the day, but I know how much the audience loves me, and I couldn't leave them for a full week without some Aaron Torres.
All right, so I got to know, like, before we get to the sports part of it, where in South Florida are you? Like, what part of Miami? What hotel? Like, what's the area? I want to know all about it.
First of all, I was thinking this. Do you prefer this sound or the highway overpass that you think that I'm usually walking over when I'm talking to you?
I prefer this.
Okay, so we're in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm getting you in the mood. No, we're in Fort Lauderdale. It's, you know the area of South Florida well. It's about 40 minutes from Miami. Beautiful little beach town. It's our little getaway. West Coast. Obviously is beautiful in its own right. And I know, people like to poke at the West Coast for certain things, but when we want to kind of get away for a little beach vacation, stay in the U.S., all that, we usually get to Fort Lauderdale because, yes, it's Florida. Yes, it gets very hot. But when you're on the water, it really isn't that bad. So we've been here since Monday. We leave Saturday. I'll actually be hosting Fox Sports Radio Saturday night. And that's it, man. We've been here for about 4 days now. It's been great. When I get back, it's full speed ahead to college football. I already got the takes rearing, and yeah, man, that's about it. But we're having a good trip. Thank you for asking. If anyone's in Fort Lauderdale, you want to meet us, come hang out.
AT, I don't want to spend too much time on the NBA, but I find the three teams in Texas to all be very intriguing storylines. KD to the Rockets is intriguing. Cooper Flag being drafted by the Mavs as they try to kind of reclaim or change the narrative there. And obviously what the Spurs have put together. Just your thoughts on the three situations in Texas when it comes to the NBA.
It's a great point. It's a great point, David. Obviously we don't spend. I talk a little bit more on the NBA side on Sports Radio, but it was funny. The KD thing. I thought the idea of trading for KD in 2025 is a little bit overrated. But I do think the Rockets were the one team that kind of made sense. I mean, 2 seed or whatever, 2, 3 seed, whatever it was, great regular season, but it was just obvious in the postseason that they didn't have scoring pops. So I think that's a very natural fit. You get to keep the Thompson brother. You get to keep, some of the key pieces, Red Van Vliet. So I like the roster they put together. I don't know if they're OKC, but I don't think you could have run it back with that group if you have aspirations beyond the first round of the playoffs. The Spurs, I'll say, again, not being a huge NBA guy, but loving college basketball. I just love a lot of the pieces that they put together. Steph Castle, of course, from UConn is a guy that I followed his career basically since high school. He's a rising star. We all know about Wemby, and, I've been pretty adamant about this. I think Carter Bryant, who was actually their second pick last night, I think could be one of the best players in the draft. I actually thought he was a little bit underused by Arizona this past year. I think they kind of did the old school, give respect to the veterans instead of just rolling with the young guy. So I'm actually very intrigued by them going forward. And I think obviously the Mavericks speak for themselves. I still, my antenna goes up, David, whenever you bring up the Luka trade. I was on air when it happened. There's something that still doesn't add up to me. The Mavs proceeding to get the number 1 pick immediately after when they had a 1.8% chance to get it. Again, it makes me question some things, but it doesn't change the fact that a core of Cooper Flag with Anthony Davis and eventually healthy Kyrie Irving, PJ Washington, et cetera, it is a very intriguing team. So I think it's a great point by you. I hadn't really thought about, but all three of those teams are very interesting in their own right.
You had me laughing with your tweet about Colin Cowherd getting drafted yesterday. You're going to give the audience a little bit of background on that because it was a little mistake by the crew at ESPN.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched any of it, David. I actually thought, it was actually very poorly done. I thought it was. And listen, by the way, you know this, I know this. Covering more than one sport is hard. Covering more than one sport when the previous season ended is basically impossible. And so I don't even blame the talent on air, but everyone on air was basically coming off, 14 days of covering the NBA Finals. Now they have to be NBA draft experts. And so nobody really knew what was going on. There was butcher names left and right. But the one that made me laugh, and it played well, was there was a player named Cedric Coward out of Washington State who got drafted by Portland. He got traded somewhere, whatever. But Malik Andrews, who I think is really good, again, didn't know his name. And was like, and with the 13th or 12th pick or whatever it was, the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Coward. And so I was one of the first people to pick up on it. I said, congrats on going home. And I tagged Colin Coward, who's a buddy of mine. And then by the end of the night, he was tweeting out pictures of him in Blazers jerseys. And it was actually a really funny thing. All I'll say really quickly was it was very funny. I do think that ESPN, if you're going to be the home of the NBA draft, you've got to step up your coverage. They have so many great college basketball analysts, Jimmy Dykes, Fran Fraschilla, get those guys involved to actually know the players. But that was a funny moment in an otherwise pretty boring night overall.
AT, when do you start your real deep prep for college football? Because we are a couple weeks away from SEC Media Days. We're right there. And, I feel like I'm starting to do my second layer of prep. There's that spring ball layer. But now we're at a point where we got to know these teams for July and for August.
Yeah, for me, it really starts around Memorial Day. I think that's really when kind of the college portal stuff ramps down. But then, with college football's portal, teams are still adding guys until, middle of May. And so I think, you have to be cautious about, listen, I don't want to be a Malik Andrews. I don't want to come on TexAgs or Ryan Fowler's show and start talking about guys on the wrong teams. And so, really about the middle of May is, that's quote unquote magazine season. And even the magazines are sometimes a little bit out of touch, whatever. But that's usually when I start. And that's really when I do a deep dive on all of these rosters. You really start to look at some of the schedules, how things break, this and that. And then just, you start to formulate things because like you said, it's full speed ahead for media days, which, doesn't feel like it should be media days, but it also does kind of feel like it should be media days here in a few weeks. So yeah, you get through the 4th of July, I like to at least have a baseline on the top 25-ish teams and, the teams that I know we'll be talking about. And then obviously you want to learn from my perspective, at least how I do it is, I want to know about everybody in the SEC. I want to know about everybody in the Big Ten, and then those G5 teams, those Big 12 teams, that you need to know. But yeah, I think the whole cycle has changed because the portal stuff, the portal stuff makes it a little bit different. The portal's now going until the middle of May.
We're talking to Aaron Torres here on TexAgs Live. AT, let's take it from. I'm going to just try to use your brain a little bit. Who's a team that people are talking about being really good that you're just not sold on, and then conversely, who's the team that people aren't talking about? They're like, I think you need to take a second look at them.
I will say two teams that are playing in week one against each other. I guess I see the LSU hype, but I really don't. I'm just not a Garrett Nussmeier guy. I think listen, I think two things can be true, and I'll try to be quick because I know it's an open-ended question, but I think two things can be true. Is I don't think all of LSU's relative struggles, they went 8-4 in the regular season last year, are all Garrett Nussmeier's fault. I don't think he had the receiving core that some previous quarterbacks did. But I also think people forget that by the end of last year, I think even LSU fans, I think they were ready to start the Bryce Underwood era. And then, of course, Bryce Underwood decommits. He goes to Michigan. Garrett Nussmeier knows, hey, I'm not going to have to basically be a mentor for this guy, decides to come back. But I think I've said this on your show, David. I don't get the number one overall pick vibes. And I think the thing with them too, basically an entirely new receiving core through the portal, admittedly very productive, an entirely new offensive line through the portal. That's just a lot to ask. And then, oh, by the way, you open at Clemson, and it's like, we've seen it with LSU the last couple of years. You lose that game, you're behind the 8 ball all year trying to catch up, let alone the fact that this year the schedule flips. You have to go to Alabama. You got a couple of your other tougher games on the road at Oklahoma, et cetera. So that's one I'm a little bit lower on than most. I'd have him in the top 25, but like top 10 to me just seems preposterous. And then the inverse is Clemson. And listen, I don't think we can deny that part of it is an ACC schedule, that if you get past LSU at home in week 1, you're in pretty good shape. But I also just like the pieces. And I think, with the way college football is going, I give Dabo Swinney credit. He stood his line in the stand when I think a lot of us, myself included, were critical. Klubnik's a third-year starter. I thought he made a leap last year. And I think credit to Dabo. I think he actually did go into the portal and plugged a few holes. So I think that's going to be a very telling game in week 1 for both programs. And those are the two that really jump out to me at this point in the summer. I think they're both interesting talking points. I don't get the LSU stuff. And I think because Clemson hasn't been Clemson the last few years, I don't think people realize quite how much they have coming back.
Hey, T, great stuff, man. Thanks for your time, brother.
No problem. We'll talk next week, David. Appreciate you. Take care.
To you. Aaron Torres here on TexAgs Live. Appreciate his time on vacay hanging out with the crew. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs, open segment. Got a couple things to get into. Carson Branstein, some good news for her. We'll talk about that on the other side. Right now, Brazos Running Company. You can find them at Century Square. If you're looking for shoes, that's the place to go. I know my daughter just went through this past weekend. They had a huge sale. But beyond that, if you're looking for Brooks, On, Hoka, whatever top type of shoe that you're looking for, they got the selection there, and they're going to help you find the right shoe for your situation. If you're a runner, if you're into fitness, weightlifting, whatever it may be, they have the shoes for you at the Brazos Running Company. They also have Fiore clothing there. They've got Duck Camp outdoor apparel. They have Turtle Box speakers, and they have Stanley Cups. Brazos Running Company is a great place to go for all of your outdoor needs when it comes to your shoes. Brazos Running Company at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. Check out the Brazos Running Company. Hey everyone, David Nuño and Olin Buchanan and OB. Typically we start off the show in this section and we call it the Holistic Planning Cool
The cool zone, yeah. It's pretty cool.
What do we know about holistic planning?
Well, a lot of cool stuff. For instance, holistic planning can help you with your investments.
I love that.
They can help you with your taxes. So
I don't like paying taxes.
You can get that money from your investments and they keep it, they'll help you keep it away from the government.
Yep.
Not all of it, but more of it. And then they'll even help you with your estate planning. When you're old like me, you got to make sure some of that money you made is there for when you want to retire and just enjoy the rest of your life.
You want your estate to be planned. But they also do something else.
Yeah, well, if you are, like, say, a sports fan, and you've always wanted to...
Everybody watching us, right?
Yeah. And you want to always dream of being an owner, well, in a certain way you can, because they will broker the deal for you to invest in pro sports.
Yeah, what you need to do is check out investinprosports.com. That's where you can get all the information if you want to invest in a team. I don't know what team. He'd probably try to buy the Cowboys. I'd try to buy a lot of the Houston teams. Whatever it may be, investinprosports.com. It is holistic planning, and we love hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. Cheerio. TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ambry a moment ago told me I sing during the show. I do not sing.
Yeah, you do.
There is a rhythm to my...
You say something really funny, and then you're like, I don't know why I said it like
That's
that.
not a song. That's a commentary. It's breaking the third wall.
Okay.
First wall, whatever it is. Third wall.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Deadpool. You've seen Deadpool?
Yeah.
When he looks at the camera? That's what I'm doing.
I love Deadpool, actually.
Which one?
I like the newest one, Wolverine, where the first scene is just really good.
Yeah. First one, second one I didn't like. First one, great. Third one, great. Second one, It's all right. Get a report for us? We got some cool news, right?
Yes, Carson Branstein is in Wimbledon bound. The Texas A&M alum is officially in the singles main draw, a huge moment in her career, and we just got that news in. So,
hey, cool story for her was like if you go back a couple years ago, she got injured. And she was going to transfer, and we didn't. Last year's team, they were on their path to a national championship, the Aggie women's tennis team. And then she joined them late in the season and helped them win a national championship. And so you look at her last 12, 14 months, really awesome. Congratulations to Carson, who's been on TexAgs several times. That's an awesome honor. What else, Ambry?
Ambry says, what?
That's your name.
Yes. Tennessee Tech righty Juan Vargas is headed to Aggieland. He earned his first team All-OVC honors last season with 3.19 ERA, 8 saves, and 56 strikeouts in just over 42 innings. He has 2 years of eligibility left as well.
One of the latest transfers to join Michael Early and company. All right, so this is what we got in hour number 3. Like I speak really good grammar. We have Matt Baker, National College Sports reporter from The Athletic, going to be joining us on the show. We'll also have the Fan Show guys. Matt Browning and Kevin Ross will be in studio. We'll get to your text messages at 979-693-1150, and you can also call the show. Maybe we'll answer. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3, up next in 2 and 2. Let's go around the SEC, brought to you by the Jackson Group's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Buppies Catering Hotlines, where we find Matt Baker, national college sports reporter for The Athletic. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So you were in Big Ten country last week? You were just kind of investigating and doing your prep for the season, or actually vacationing?
Actually vacationing. I went to, of course, traditional Big Ten and ACC country, the Redwoods out in California, right? And San Francisco and Oregon and Seattle. Big Ten country, of course. I saw literal Oregon Ducks walking across the street near Crater Lake. Fantastic to kind of get away from the 1,000 degrees here, just as I'm sure it's 1,000 degrees where you are too.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, for a big portion of your career, you've covered the Florida schools, correct? For the most part.
Oh yeah. And I'm still based just outside Tampa. But yeah, I covered Florida and Florida State regularly since 2015. Florida State a little bit before that as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you about the three big schools. I know there's more schools that are really good, but I'm going to ask you about the big three schools in Florida for this upcoming year. Your thoughts on them, because it's been a minute since all three were relevant, right? Florida State was expected to be relevant last year. They were relevant for the wrong reasons. Miami had a great run, probably fell a little short than what they were kind of destined to with Cam Ward. In Florida, I was with you when it felt like they were going to fire Billy Napier when we were in Gainesville, and then he turned the season around. So in 2025, what are the Florida storylines? How are they feeling about those three programs?
Well, Florida to me is the most interesting, and it's been a minute since I've said that, because I could see it going any number of ways. Like, you could say that based on what we've seen so far, maybe Billy Napier is out of his league in the SEC, and you could see them absolutely, going 6-6 and him being fired. Like, that's a reasonable scenario. It's also a reasonable scenario to think that DJ Lagway is the Gators' best quarterback since Tim Tebow, that Billy has been building this entire time, really for this kind of year 4-ish time period, and he's finally got everything in order, and they could make a playoff run or be in that conversation, or anything in the middle, and neither one would surprise me. So, I mean, look, I don't have a good read on anybody. I don't think any reporter really has a good read on any program right now because so much changes every year. But Florida's fascinating from that perspective. Florida State, I'm trying to figure out whether last year 2-10 was the fluke or the year before 13-0 was the fluke. Because those two things don't make sense, right? You cannot square those two things. I question a lot of the moves that they made in the offseason, bringing in Gus Malzahn as offensive coordinator, Mike Norvell taking away play calling duties from himself, taking away his own superpower and handing it to somebody else. Again, I understand the why. That's just a really interesting decision that, again, I have no idea how it's going to work out. And then Miami, like, they should be very good. Just the way they've built, Mario's recruited at a high level. But then again, they had the top pick in the draft and were just good last year. They still maybe potentially underachieved, as I think you were alluding to. So this feels like a big year for Miami and Mario. And can they win the ACC? Can they stay in that playoff conversation the entire time and have a chance to make some noise at the end of the season?
For somebody who watched so much of the Gators last year, tell me about Lagway. I understand the hype because they won a bunch of games at the end of the year, but tell me about the teams that they faced at when they faced them, right? Like, because there were some circumstances in some of the teams that they played that maybe they weren't at their best strength, but it doesn't matter. When you're on the hot seat, you'll take every win.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you look at the end of the season, right, with LSU and Ole Miss. Both of them good teams, both of them kind of tailing off. So, again, that's just one of those where is it glass half full or glass half empty? And that just depends on how you personally want to look at it, because I can look at it either way and understand it. How I would personally look at it is Florida was in a position where they could have crumbled last year. We have seen that. You've seen it with your own eyes. I've seen it with my own eyes, where you get a coach where, things aren't going well. You hear all this hot seat chatter, maybe some bad luck, injuries pile up, whatever it is, right? Stuff goes the wrong way, and it absolutely crumbles and craters. That did not happen with Billy. That did not happen with that roster. I think DJ Lagway is a large part of that. He is tremendously talented. I think he's a very good leader just based on what I've seen. If he stays healthy, he has, I mean, the sky is the limit on him. I am very bought in onto his potential. Again, if he stays healthy and if everything else develops around him. So yeah, to your point, the teams that Florida faced at the end of the year when they started rolling stuff together, they were not elite, right? If Florida's going to get to where Florida is supposed to be, they're going to have to beat Tennessee. They're going to have to beat Georgia. They're going to have to beat LSU, a better LSU team probably this year in week 3. That stuff has to happen. However, we can also look at it and acknowledge the fact that they didn't crumble at the end of last season and salvage something at least decent out of it. It speaks to, I think, where they might be going.
Does Napier keep his job with that schedule if this year is similar to last year? They go 7-5, 8-4. I mean, is there enough of proof of concept there to keep him around longer, or no?
The terrible answer is it depends on how the 7 and the 5 look, right? If they go 7-5 and DJ Lagway, I'm not wishing injuries on anyone, but let's say he blows out his knee in week 1 and Billy still salvages 7 wins out of it. Okay, that would be acceptable, I think. But if Lagway and the Gators are healthy the whole time and it's 7-5, maybe not. Because Florida's supposed to be better than this, right? The last couple of guys that they hired and fired, Jim McElwain was better than this. Dan Mullen was better than this. And yet it's still banking on a lot of hope and Florida being patient, which is something they haven't been in the past. The other wild card in all of this is obviously the money, right? Everyone's looking to save money. We have to pay players now. There's no money for this and there's no money for that. So would Florida want to spend the $20 million, whatever it is, I don't have the number off the top of my head, to fire Billy Napier in this climate as everyone's pinching pennies? Again, it would really just depend on how those look. But 7-5 to me is where it gets really dicey.
Talking to Matt Baker here on TexAgs Live. All right, Matt, you've seen A&M up close. You saw what they did against Florida when Florida was trying to find their identity. A&M did not have the same results that Florida did at the end of the season. What do you think about the Aggies in 2025?
Yeah, I think they're in that tier in the SEC where they're not the top dogs, right? They're not Georgia, or I don't think they're Texas, but could they be one of those teams in that next group? Yeah, potentially. I don't know that there's a ton of separation outside of the top couple. And again, every team changes so much right now. That's an awful answer, and I apologize for it. But that's just the way that it is, where there's so much roster turnover where you have no idea how things are going to go. But I like generally the things that Elko's been doing at A&M. I think clearly he's a good coach. He didn't get there by accident. He's got the chops there. So, yeah, I think they could be in position to have a fine year. I like the quarterback and what he's done in flashes last year. So, yeah, I'd be fairly optimistic if I'm an Aggies fan.
All right, and I want to follow that up with your Tier 1, Tier 2, because I agree with you. But I'm not even convinced that the Tier 1 teams are actually Tier 1 teams. I'm more convinced about Georgia because they've done it for so long with Kirby. But I have questions there. Texas, they've got the talent, but they haven't done it in the SEC where the depth, once you start losing it, it really hurts you. And this year's schedule was significantly tougher than last year's.
Well, and let's address the elephant in the room with Texas. It's Arch Manning, right? Like that's it. Where if he is as good as the recruitniks think he is, and if he is a Manning for everything that entails, then Texas should be in the national championship conversation. Period. End of story. If he's not because of injuries, because maybe he's only good and not great, maybe he still has warts as a first-time full-time starter in the toughest league in the country. All those things could be factors into it. But just to zoom out for a second, your point on the top tier maybe not being top is 100% valid. I think what the NIL era, whatever is going to happen in this new era that starts here on July 1st, and the transfer portal, I do think the super team system is going away. Might we have some occasional ones that break through? Yeah, of course. Maybe you can argue Ohio State was last year. I don't know. But I think like the Georgias of a couple years ago, the Alabamas under Nick Saban, I don't think we're going to see that as much anymore. Just if you look at the margins and like the number 25, number 24, number 23 guys in a Georgia, Bama recruiting class, when they were at their peak, those guys can go to other places now. And you add those bottom three up, year after year after year, and you put one on the Aggies, and you take one to Tennessee, and you take one to Washington, whatever it is, you divvy it up a little bit more, and the gap shrinks. So I think, to your point, I think that's valid. I still think there is a gap between the Georgia and Texas and probably everybody else in the SEC. But overall, I think that's a very valid point, in that I think it's going to make the sport more interesting, where maybe it's not Alabama and Clemson versus the field the way it was in like 2015, 2018, that type of era.
And I also think if you look around the league, there's not a lot of proven quarterbacks, proven in the league quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier's proven in the league. Lenore Sellers is proven in the league. But overall, you look at all around with, Ty Simpson's supposed to be the quarterback at Alabama. There's no guarantee he'll be the starter, right? Like some people are thinking it's going to be Keelan Russell or Austin Mack.
Yeah, and again, Simpson's was a talented player, but doing it in 7-on-7 and doing it in high school is not the same as doing it in the SEC. Sellers is really good at South Carolina. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm still not 100% sold on him. Maybe I just need to see a tiny bit more. And then you look at Tennessee and what they've got going on with the quarterback situation. Yeah, there's a lot of wild cards there at the most important position in sports across the conference.
We're talking to Matt Baker here on TexAgs Live. What about Auburn? This is kind of like Billy Napier. This is a big year for Hugh Freeze. Offensively, they have a lot of talent. We got to see what the quarterback situation does turn out to be. But what do you think about Auburn this year? The way they finished last season, they did beat A&M in that overtime game, and just where they're headed.
I got to cover my first Iron Bowl last year, so I was there in Tuscaloosa watching Auburn there, and Hugh Freeze did not inherit the best of situations just from a roster perspective, and a lot of the things he did early was, look, our talent isn't good enough. We have to focus on recruiting, right? I'm not going to call the plays. I'm going to put that off because I need to spend that extra time recruiting. But this is around the time where it should show. Auburn, I think, was better than their record suggests if you look at some of the advanced metrics, but it's Auburn. Auburn is crazy. You didn't hire Hugh Freeze to be below average in the SEC. You hired him because he has a track record with what he did at Ole Miss and what he did elsewhere, where he should be good and Auburn should be a contender. It's a pivotal year for them because it's getting to put up or shut up time, I think, and I don't have a great read on where they are. I expect them to be better on the field. Is better SEC championship? No, I don't think that's realistic, but should they be more competitive in some of those games and be able to, maybe they can scare Bama at the end of the year? I think that type of thing is feasible.
I feel like I disrespected Pavia by not bringing him up as one of these established quarterbacks, and I think it goes to that, there was a little moment, lightning in a bottle with him last year where he was kind of like Johnny Manziel. There was an aura, a buzz around him, right? And he had a great year, and he had opportunities to go elsewhere, but he stayed. It feels like it's kind of done a 180 to where it's kind of quiet when people are talking about Pavia, other than his comments about, we're coming for you this year.
And that's not a bad thing, right? Where he had his major flash, and then we, as the sports reporting, sports journalism, sports media ecosystem, moved on. I think that's fine for him, right? Because he's a very talented player. We've seen that. He is a heck of a lot of fun to watch. He's brash and all that stuff, and we absolutely love to see it, right? But the fact that right now he's going under the radar a little bit to the point where he wasn't the first name either one of us thought of, right? Yeah. I think that's a good thing for Vanderbilt. Just let him go under the radar, and then once the season gets going, we'll see if he can continue to. Again, was it lightning in the bottle? I don't think so. I think it was better than that. But can he consistently do that and elevate Vanderbilt to a level that they haven't been in a while? Maybe.
And what about Ole Miss? I think last year was a disappointment. They were close, but it was a disappointment considering all that they invested. Those guys are in the NFL or have moved on. It's a different looking Ole Miss team. Are they a little under the radar?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's hard to take them super seriously because last year was their year. Look, the way college sports has been the last few years, we've seen it where almost like in the NFL or I'm here in Tampa, the Lightning have done this, right, in hockey, where you have a window to maximize because of this guy's contract or, this guy moving the rookie contract, whatever it is, the way that money works, sometimes you have, this is our window, we have to go all in right now because next year we're going to look totally different. That was Ole Miss last year, right? Where the way the roster was built, the way the money was, the way the rules were, everything. Last year was the year for Ole Miss to break through and make the playoff, and they did not. Lane Kiffin is obviously a very good X's and O's coach, but Ole Miss is Ole Miss. There's a reason they haven't been great very often in their history, right? Like they have some systemic disadvantages compared to some of their peers in the SEC. So if they weren't able to break through last year, it's hard for me to think that based on the way that things are structured this year, that this year they can be better than that and crack the playoff.
Matt, what about a team outside the SEC? And I know we can look at the Big Ten. There's some big wigs there, but ACC, do you give Clemson a chance this year, Miami a chance to make major noise in the college football playoffs?
Miami, no, because I just haven't seen it. Like, I thought very highly of Mario Cristobal when he was at Oregon. He accumulated a lot of talent. He won at a good enough level. I haven't seen it translate to the field enough yet. Isn't that James Franklin mold to me, or that kind of grouping, I guess, where yes, it's good, and yes, you can see why it would be better, but until it happens, part of me is holding back. Clemson's different because Dabo's done it before, right? He's won a couple national championships. He made Clemson, there was a time they were the best program in the sport ahead of Alabama. They just were. Can he do it again? I don't know. However, when you look at Klubnik coming back and the defensive line pieces coming back, Dabo finally using the portal, if the receiver position in particular can get better, yeah, you can see Clemson being a real contender. I think they're clearly the best team in the ACC. And can they make some noise in the playoff and have a run at the Final Four? Maybe beyond that? Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
And then last one for you. You mentioned James Franklin, Penn State. They're getting a lot of love, potentially the number one team in the country, dynamic backfield, returning quarterback. What do you think about Penn State this year?
I think all those things are true, but until James Franklin consistently wins the big games where it's, my dues are about the same as yours, can I coach up my X's better than your O's? We haven't seen that enough from him. And look, the sport is still about talent acquisition and now retention. That gets you 90% of the way there, maybe 95% of the way there. But there's that final 10% where Kirby did it at a high level, where it's not just getting the dudes, it's maximizing them, it's developing them, it's getting the right schemes so that my guys can beat yours on 3rd and 3 when the game's on the line. I have not seen enough of that from James Franklin to make me think that, if I were doing a ballot, I would not have them number one for that reason. I would probably put Texas there, but that said, I understand why people think Penn State is the best team in the country, and on paper they might be. I just need to see some more on-the-field proof of concept stuff before I can fully buy in.
That is Matt Baker on the Buffy's Catering Hotline. Matt, you can check out his work at The Athletic. Matt, thanks for your time, bud. We'll talk soon, all right?
Sure, thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back, unfortunately, we have to talk to the fan show, guys. That's coming up in a few minutes. I know it's your favorite segment. Yeah, you're the one. Just kidding, guys. All right, if your car was hit by the recent hailstorm, don't trust an out-of-town pop-up tent. You need to trust somebody local who's going to be here, who stands the test of time. And I'm talking about Classic Collision and Restoration, who specialize in paintless dent repair for hail damage. Those out-of-town pop-up tents are already gone. They called your phone, they showed up, they knocked on your door. They're not supposed to. They did that all to get your business, and then they left. And then when you see some of the mistakes they made, you can't get it fixed. But when you go somewhere local who's going to take care of you, they're going to take care of you for time, right? They've been in this market for over 25 years. They are high-quality auto body repair. No one in the Brazos Valley offers the same quality of service. Don't get your car fixed. Get it restored with Classic Collision and Restoration. They're Aggie-owned and operated. Doug Leopold, class of 1993. Call them up at 979-779-8399. That's 979-779-8399 or online at classiccollisionandrestoration.com. Estamos aquí, the fan.
Joe.
Why do you have an accent there?
I'm trying to think what it was, how you say it in Spanish.
El Fancho.
Yeah, how do you say show in Spanish?
El Joe.
El Joe.
El Joe.
Oh, that's what I said. That's what I did.
TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Kevin Ross, what up?
How you been, man?
Been a minute.
Good to see you.
Browning, what up?
Good morning.
Matt Browning, good to see you, sir.
Buenos dias.
All right, we're not going to do it in Spanish, all right? We're not. We're just going to keep it in English just because it's that time of day. Yeah. And we got to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Ambry Heath, who apparently is getting some love on the YouTube page.
Yes, I am. I actually am not really. There's only 2 comments about me, but I still feel special. Thank you.
Now we need 20 more. So everybody send a shout out to Ambry.
Yes.
You have the first question of the day.
What is on y'all's mind?
Mr. Ross, you haven't been here in a minute.
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. This guy, I text him all the time. Hey, can you do the show? I'm busy, bro.
Listen, all these syndicates reach out to me to do shows, and I don't want to, contractual stuff. You get it. No, I thought about this. So we took a little family vacation. We're down in Florida, and as you drive and you ponder and stuff, and I always think, if I wasn't an Aggie, what fan base would I do in the SEC?
Yeah.
And so I would ask you two this same question.
All right.
If you can't be an Aggie,
easy.
Which SEC school would you root for, be a part of? You love it. You think it's your best culture?
Easy. It has to be SEC.
Has to be SEC.
Okay.
Easy.
What's yours?
Easy. So now hang on. The other fan base that I would cheer for is probably a dumb one since they haven't had a lot of success. They've had a little bit.
Vanderbilt?
No. Oh. I'd be an Auburn fan. I like Auburn. Here's why. Somehow related. Somehow in our family tree, we're somehow related to the guy who started Auburn back in the 1800s or something. And
Mr. Auburn, yeah.
So that would be and they're culturally they're similar. They're fans. Every time I met them, have been super nice. So Auburn would be my second.
That would be your SEC school second if you could root, if you had to root, not could because you're not going to.
Yeah.
I'm going to say.
Who would you be?
Who do you think I'd say?
Georgia.
No.
I can see Georgia as a 1B. They're not my 1A. I can see Georgia, though.
Hopefully it's not.
I think that.
Can't be Bama.
No.
Not an Ole Miss guy.
It can't be a Mississippi school.
No, God, no.
God.
Not Florida. No, it's Florida.
It's Florida.
I should have thought that through. Yeah. The Cuban in you. It's gotta be Florida.
But I'm more of a Hurricane guy, and that's a rival, so not really.
Right. Yeah. That's why I wouldn't have picked Florida.
But I've been told, I haven't spent a lot of time in Gainesville. Gainesville has got a similar vibe to College Station.
Yep.
All right. I've got a lot of family went to Florida. Kind of like DJ Lagway we're talking about right now. I like Lagway, so I'm going to say Florida right now.
Yeah. And what would be yours?
So I base it on where would I send my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And
Vandy.
Ole Miss.
Florida.
Florida, okay.
I like the vibe. I like the culture.
Okay.
I like the fact that they refuse to just sit back and let their teams not achieve success.
They achieve a lot of success.
They achieve a lot of success. Every Florida person I've ever hired over the years, I would put them pretty close to like an Aggie.
Yeah.
There seem to be pretty good people. You know what second, though? Second is just the hellfire and brimstone is the LSU. I love the fact that, so I was in Baton Rouge 2 days ago.
You got too many teeth to be an LSU.
Do you know who I saw in the parking lot outside of their baseball stadium?
Shaq.
Their coach.
Oh, yeah?
He gets out of his Escalade. I was like, hey, girls, that's their coach. He walks over.
Yeah.
We're literally.
Brian.
It was so nice.
Was he nice?
Super nice.
Yeah.
Just as laid back. And, of course, I had all my beach stuff in the back of the truck, and he obviously knew we were passing through. But I was like, you know what? Now, the facilities and all that, that's a different story. It's awful. But
I don't like Baton Rouge.
But I like
it. And I feel unsafe every time I go.
Very unsafe.
So they're not going to be on my team.
So I would pick Florida.
Right?
Interesting. That's an interesting concept.
And also, I feel unsafe in Austin if it's Austin proper. Outside of like downtown, it's great, right?
Yeah.
But like I feel because
it's sticky, it's nasty, it's dirty.
I'm not a big city guy anymore, and not that Baton Rouge is a big city. Okay, that's a good question.
It's a dirty place. It's a dirty.
So that's
place.
what's on my mind. Who would I root for, and who would I say? All right, hey girls, you're not going to A&M, the mothership. Where would you go? I'm all in on Florida.
Okay, all right.
Florida, yeah. I like Florida too. I guess they would be.
We had a great time in Gainesville.
We did. The stadium's a dump.
Wait, isn't Gainesville where you got stopped at the airport?
No, it's in the stadium.
Oh, it was in the stadium. Okay.
So you're talking about the lady going, hey.
Yeah.
Well, how do I know your voice? And I was like, me? I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, this is legit. I was there.
Yeah. He was witness. This lady comes up. She goes, I know that voice. Are you on TexAgs? And I go, yeah. Hey, shocked me.
Did we see OB in the airport?
Never saw OB in the airport.
Yeah.
You were there.
Did we talk?
No,
we saw OB.
OB had left you.
Okay.
Or you had left him, one of the two. Y'all had separated at this point. This was when we were getting back to
Did I pull what I do at the gym and put my headphones on and just look away?
I don't know. If I'd have found you, I would have run you down. But no, that's interesting. Because I always liked them, and I will say that the Tom Petty, that's fun.
Spot on.
That part was fun. That was the most fun part of that game. Well, that and the fact that we beat the snot out of them. That was fun.
I would like to see that at Kyle Field, where LSU does Call 'em Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Wisconsin does Jump Around.
We tried this. It didn't work.
I know, but there's got to be something we can do.
The rap song we play. Come on. Huh? Mo Bamba.
But we play it 28 times on third down. I'm talking about when the third quarter ends, they hit play.
Yeah, and I don't know the words either to Mo Bamba.
I don't think anybody does.
We tried the fiddle song.
Come on,
the fiddle song doesn't work.
That song slaps, though. Admit it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's
like Clay Walker getting the Texans fired up. No offense, it ain't gonna happen, Clay. I love you, but you're not a hype guy.
It's got to be Robert Earl Keen.
Yes,
it's got to be something Robert Earl Keen. That's it.
I agree.
Robert Earl Keen. Figure out which one is his best song, and we'll sing it in the stadium
all day.
But,
you want to tell me what's on your mind?
I'd love to. So the last week we sat here, and when you were out and Bronny was here, and we were trying to find things to discuss. And boy, did Coach Elko give us some stuff to talk about this week. He had himself a week, didn't he? I mean, man alive.
He's had himself a month.
I mean, this month alone, just one after another. And I get it. There's a long road to go. We get that, but. Just that kind of momentum.
We can only talk about the right now.
Yeah, we can only talk about the right now, and the right now is really good because you go into Georgia and get three of our best recruits out of the state of Georgia. I don't recall a whole lot of guys. We've gotten guys out of Florida. We've gotten guys out of Louisiana. We've gotten guys out of California, obviously Texas. We've gotten guys in the past, but to have three guys out of Georgia, out of the state of Georgia, which has not been a hotbed for us in the past, and especially with you're right in Kirby's backyard,
right?
Getting some real talent is super impressive. So I guess that squashes the old question: can Elko recruit? Because boy, he and his staff are putting on a show right now. It looks like. So, like I said, long way to go, but I mean, boy, that's encouraging. I mean, the composite in 247 has this ranked as the second best class right as of now, and I mean, if you listen to Billy and Bronny, I mean, there's still a ton to go and a lot of potentially big fish still out there that we're in the running for. So that's fun. I kind of got away from recruiting,
but you're back
after 2022 because I mean, boy, that's a hard that takes a toll on you. But yeah, so the last couple, I've paid very little attention to recruiting,
buddy. Let's say if you're into Mercedes-Benz and you have a lemon, it doesn't mean you don't go back to Mercedes-Benz. You keep getting the best, right?
That's right.
And
you just one off is
great analogy.
So. It's actually not. I just thought of it right there, and I think I should have come up with a better one.
That's all right.
You know, Caldwell Country Chevrolet would probably been the one I would have gone with. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That is at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. dating advice on TexAgs Live. We'll talk about that in a minute, where it's the fan show. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some football, but I don't know why this hit my mind just a moment ago. Maybe it was the man bun conversation we were having a moment ago. Did you see that the Liver King threatened Joe Rogan?
Oh.
And like drove to Austin and sent some videos, and he's been arrested for threatening Joe Rogan.
Really?
The podcast.
I didn't see that. Wow.
He's Liver King. That guy's nuts, man.
Something tells me that if Rogan actually did fight him, Rogan would kill him. Death.
I mean, Rogan is trained MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Liver King, he might be on roids. He might be all roided out. But
yeah, but if Rogan does one kick to the temple, done.
Yeah. I mean, Rogan's trained MMA, dude.
Yeah,
He's
but
scary.
Like black belt.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't mess with us.
No.
Yeah, but
in the black belt community. Kidding.
But Liver King is literally Lattimore from the program.
This is true.
He is a legitimate Lattimore. Yeah. He's on so many roids he can't think straight.
Underrated movie, by
Great
the way.
movie. Did you see it in the theater?
In the theater. The day it came out.
The street
before they took the street scene out.
Yes,
I saw
it too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Road scene is awesome.
That road scene is wow.
Yeah. And then morons start doing it, and then they have to take it out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's still in the movie, like if you were to watch it now, though, right? Or is it out?
No, they pulled it.
Completely out?
It's completely out.
You only saw it at the theater for like the first week.
Yeah.
So
I think Rogan would, obviously, he's trained, obviously knows what he's doing, but he would probably have some pause, right?
Well, okay.
This other guy,
no
like,
pause.
He's going to put his thumbs through his eye socket. Like, he's that crazy.
So since I'm in the community, and by the community, I'm not a black belt. I'm a white belt to the whitest. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I've noticed people in that world will walk away. People not in that world walk into it.
Yeah.
They do everything possible to avoid.
Yeah.
They avoid because they know it's not worth it for them. They can hurt somebody or they can get themselves hurt. They walk away. They understand.
Yeah.
So I'm part of that community. I walk away now. I'm a walk awayer.
I just feel bad. I bought all those supplements from the Liver King, and I just don't have it. I don't have your physique. Like
I
feel
don't
like
have it either, buddy.
I feel like he sold me a bill of,
Yeah, he did lie.
Yeah.
He was a liar.
God.
lies.
I thought I had a chance.
So in the show earlier, we talked about, Joel Klatt had these games that could be very pivotal in the 2025 season, and he put Week 3 A&M Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be, but because of what happened last year, nothing in September will make me feel like, it'll help me feel like we're going down the right path, but it's what we do after and after. I'm talking November that matters to me. Where are you guys on that?
Yeah, it's November. And again, that'd be a nice litmus test. If you're somehow in the running for a playoff, that's a great win under your belt. If you can go there, if you can go to South Bend and win. And so obviously it's going to be an important game, and we're excited. We're going to be excited about it. But if in the grand scheme of things, that game is, especially now when you're in a 12-team playoff. But I mean, the fact is, you honestly know that, and I take that back. You've got to win that game. Mm-hmm. Right? You really do have to win that game. Here's why: because if you're trying to get into a 12-team playoff, that's the ultimate goal, and you still got to go through that SEC gauntlet. And ours is going to be much harder this year than it was last year because of the road schedule. Because we've got so many games on the road, we've got to play at Baton Rouge, we've got to play at Austin, we've got to play, those games on the road. It's going to be a tough. So you've got to win. You've got to win that big non-conference. That would be a great win under the belt. So yeah, I think it is important. I think
it's so important.
It's a quad 5 win,
considering the 3 road games. Well played. Yeah. Which one are you? We've already done this, so we don't need to do it again. But there's different. If you're going to win one of those 3 major road games, LSU, Texas, and Notre Dame, to me the most winnable is Notre Dame.
I agree.
Now, Notre Dame may be, they were in the championship game last year. They could have won it all, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a slight at Notre Dame. I just don't look at that game as hard for A&M to win as, to me, going to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, because that's because we've had, I think of those 3 teams, I think that Notre Dame and Texas are probably the better team, better than LSU. But I think it's from our standpoint, because we had no success in Baton Rouge. We hadn't won there since we were in high school. And so the fact is that's what makes that game scary. It's not the team they're putting on the field. It really isn't.
It might be.
Not compared to the other 2, but
it's the atmosphere. Would you think for a second we get a 11 a.m. kickoff in Baton Rouge? No chance.
No chance.
It's a 7 p.m.
12-year-olds in the audience.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance that we get at Texas an 11 a.m. or a 2 p.m. kickoff?
No, I think that one's already been listed as a night game.
Yeah, it's a night game.
Okay. the point is, somehow, every time we travel on the road, we get these hostile night games, and you have to factor that in. So I agree. I think we have a better chance at Notre Dame, which is a crazy comment, to actually pull that win off. But which win would you rather have? If you could pick one of the three. Texas, right?
Yeah, but I want Texas with like a 10-win season or 9-win season. I don't want Texas the way we beat LSU a couple years ago to make it a 5-7 season, right? That it made me feel better going into the offseason. But no, like to me, it's the totality of the season, and I hope that Texas is a part of that, and I hope LSU is a part of that. I hope Notre Dame's part of that.
I mean, those are. I mean, think about that. We're talking about Notre Dame, LSU, and Texas. Those are three
top 10 teams.
True blue bloods that we're on the road at, and it's going to be a good challenge. It's going to be fun to watch.
BU Kennels on the YouTube chat. Okay.
Oh, hey.
I don't know if I like his tone here. Next year, fans will be using that as an excuse to say we're still 2 years away because now we're losing the entire O-line. Loser mentality. They push now. Eyeballs. I think this is from an earlier commentary when Liucci was on about, we were talking about the depth of the offensive line moving forward.
Is that, I needed context. I don't know what that meant.
But I will say this, like, bottom line is, if we're going to use that as a potential reason for Texas to maybe be down, you got to say the same thing about Texas A&M. I've used this line a couple times this summer already. In 21, I think we underestimated losing the offensive line for 2020. Right?
Okay.
Right?
That's fair.
And you can have more talent. It doesn't mean it's going to gel. I believe in what Adam Cushing's doing with that offensive line, and I don't think it's going to be as far as the fall as that one felt like in 21. Yeah. But it is a talking point. If you do lose 4 or 5 starters, you typically take a step back, just like we're saying on the defensive line. And nobody is saying that you're 2 years away, right? Like, you better be this year and next year away, not 3 years away. Now, can you discuss reality? Reality is, at the end of this year, if you don't reach your full potential and the offensive line moves on, it's a fact that it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah, agreed. So
I agree with that.
I mean, that's just a pessimist. That's the pessimist in him. Yeah. So.
No, but there's some honesty in it too.
I mean, there is, but still, hey, why think about that right now?
Yeah, right now I'm talking about now.
That's a weird thing to be.
We are undefeated, boys. Undefeated.
But right now we do have I say we because I'm going to be a part of the community. We have a great offensive line.
I think we do.
We have a very good offensive line that could be great.
I think it's one of the strong suits of our team. So why are we worrying about what it's going to look like in 2 years from now? Let's focus on what they're going to do this year.
And by the way, if Texas A&M is going to be one of the programs that we aspire them to be, they better have a Notre Dame 2024 type of offensive line. Because remember, the whole talk heading into that game was they're redoing that whole line, and one dude got hurt. Yeah. This guy's gone. I got a bunch of freshmen. Forget about it.
You got no pressure on that quarterback.
Well, and as OB pointed out earlier today, part of that was because they got rid of the ball real quick. But it doesn't matter. That old line was really good last year. They were able to run the ball. They were able to pass. Right. So those are. I'd rather not get the talking points of 26 until we finish 25. That's just me.
I think that's especially in June. I mean, June of 25. We're talking about 2 years from now, and excuses we're going to be making then. That seems non-helpful. So,
somebody's talking about Matt Browning on the. Finally, an emotional, honest answer from Browning.
What? Hey.
Which was your emotional answer?
I don't know.
He said that Texas is a true blue blood. Did you say that?
He did.
I did. I did say that.
But it's true.
I think you're fired.
It's been fun being on the show.
What's wrong with being honest? Hey, you know what else I thought about?
Because they know I hate them. They know how much I hate them, and I never say anything positive about them. And then I did call them a blue blood.
Yeah.
Look, they're good.
But
I'm not worried about them.
They have national championships. How do you argue with that?
I want to make this.
They're blue blood from.
So is Alabama.
Yeah, they're blue blood from a national perspective. So
yeah.
But I don't think I think they suck.
Now I'm freaking depressed. Way to go, Ambry. All right, career opportunities at the Association of Former Students. If you're looking for a reason to move back to Aggie land, or are you already living in Aggie land and need a new job, reach out to the Association of Former Students. They typically have openings in several departments, maybe in fundraising, in communications, marketing, you name it, sales. We'll have different things that you can look at. And they are the premier alumni association. They play a part in every Aggie story from howdy to here. Don't miss opportunities to help out the association with a bunch of their great events like the Howdy Social, Aggie Reading Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. If you're interested in joining a team or sharing with someone that would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more information on each position. It is the Association of Former Students. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Fan Show, brought to you by David Nuño. All right, guys, let's see if Ambry Heath wants to give us a talking point. What is something that Ambry Heath at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center wants to volley to us to discuss?
David just put me on the spot, but
I got one for us. Remember a couple weeks ago, you started asking me questions? Kevin, ask me a question.
Oh, yeah.
Nuño, I was in the Golden Nugget the other day, and they have us at 8.5 wins. Do you take the over or the under?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I don't do win totals because I think they're stupid because I don't know enough about the team. Right now, I would probably take the under today, but I am very close to taking the over. But I have a hard time moving on. I'm just being very honest with you. Which is it's a bad thing. It's a gift and a curse because we have a great September. Give me that Maroon Kool-Aid, right?
Kool-Aid everywhere.
Right? So, but
they don't call him next year Nuño for nothing.
Right. But I can make an argument for why this team's going to be 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
I can make an argument why this team's going to be 9-3. I can make a compelling case why they're 8-4 and 7-5, right? I can't make one for 6-6. I'm sure there is one out there that I can't. I am closer to 8-4 today, but I feel like, and maybe I do this every offseason, maybe we all do this every offseason, I'm getting closer to, why not 9-3, right?
Sure.
And I'm gonna talk you through my why not. My 8-4 is based on pretty hard road games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think A&M has not been a good road team in since 2020. Okay?
Yeah.
They won a couple last year. They need to win more than a couple this year. But the reason I think that we could be better is I think offensively we're going to be significantly better. And we were pretty good offensively last year, except in 2 major games. We were like, people really downplay how well I think Marcel played. And I've said this 1,000 times on the show. I think the defense was not good enough, and it makes Marcel's numbers look worse. The exact same numbers with a little bit of better defense. We're talking about Marcel Reed completely different. Mm-hmm. I'm saying the national media is. Mm-hmm. If they would have had a November the way Florida had, I think Marcel would be getting some, maybe not the DJ Lagway love, but he would be getting more love. That's my opinion of how much I think Marcel can be a difference maker. He's got to go prove it, right? I think your offensive line is going to be significantly better. I think your running back room is going to be one of the elite running back rooms in the country.
Can you imagine if we utilize that right? What could happen?
Right? Control the ball.
Unreal.
And I'm going on faith that Coach Elko is going to fix that defense based on his history as a head coach. If everyone's going to give Lane Kiffin his props of being this offensive-minded guy with Ole Miss and beyond, I'm going to give Coach Elko the same benefit of the doubt, right? I think he's going to turn around this defense that was not good enough last year. That's my reasons why I could pick the over.
Yeah.
Why I'm not there yet is I just recency bias.
Too many question marks. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you have too many question marks, it just does this to the scale.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we won't answer half of them, and that half changes the way I look at the season. But that's where I am today. I hope I change.
Yeah. I will say this. Every time I've ever gone into a season with high hopes, I've been let down. Every time I go in with low expectations, you typically have a good season. So I guess the last time I went in with high hopes was 2020 and 2012. Or low expectations, I mean. So, yeah. So, yeah, I guess that it just kind of depends. But, yeah, as we move through the summer, our optimism will increasingly rise.
Yeah.
And so if as I sit here today, I would call the under. I would. If it's 8.5, I'd call the under. But exactly like David, as the summer progresses and we get through those first two non-conference games, I might be singing a different tune. So I might take the over then. Who knows? We'll get excited.
Yeah.
It works. So
Derm Doc sent a video on the text line, but I don't know what it's about. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's not loading for me.
Like a LinkedIn page. Like,
no, what's that about?
Trying to give me a hint, like I need a new job. Did you give your thoughts?
No, I mean, historically, I will always take the under. I think we are truly 8-4 forever.
Okay, can we finish on a positive note?
No. What I'm saying is, but I agree with you. If I had to lay a bet, the bet's on the under. My hope, my optimism, my everything is 9 wins, 10 wins. I can get there.
We can get there, but we got to drop it right here. Maybe more on the rewind. It's TexAgs Live. We'll see you mañana.